The chairman acknowledged our host, and so speaking of our host, I would like to welcome to the stage Mr. Kola Adeleke, who is the Executive Director for Commercial Banking at EcoBank. A round of applause for Mr. Kola Adeleke.
Thank you so much. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Let me recognize especially Mr. Fola Adeola, the founder and the chairman of Faith Foundation, someone who has continued to motivate us all across the banking industry, not only as a pioneer, the founder and the pioneer managing director of Guarantee Trust Bank, but he's also a friend of our family, the EcoBank family, and a friend to our chair, a mentor to our managing director, and a mentor to so many of us. So please help me to recognize Mr. Fola Adeola this morning. On behalf of the chairman of EcoBank Nigeria, as well as our managing director, I would like to welcome all of you. I recognize the Mrs. Adeyemi, who is the executive director of Faith Foundation. We also recognize Mr. Taiwo Edele for being here this morning. Thank you so much. EcoBank is delighted to be the host. Just like the chairman of Faith Foundation said, we hosted this program last year. We are doing it again. It shows the commitment that we have towards this organization and the value that we see that the foundation continues to bring on board to the entire, not only financial system, but the economy of Nigeria. So thank you so much, Mr. Adeola and the team. And please welcome. Have a very fruitful, interactive session. And please know that we are all behind you, working together with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. A round of applause for the ED Commercial Banking at EcoBank, Mr. Kola Adeleke. Thank you very much, and many thanks again to EcoBank for hosting us. I would swiftly move into the presentation of findings and do this very high level. And so this is an appeal to download the reports once we launch so that you can get to see all of the data. It's a rich report, a lot of data in it, but I will quickly run through the key insights because of time and so that we can take all the conversations we have in stock. Okay. For the State of Entrepreneurship report, the State of Entrepreneurship in Nigeria report is an annual flagship report that is put out by the Faith Institute that really just assesses the entrepreneurial landscape in Nigeria using 5 defined pillars. We started this in 2021, and we did this 2022, and so this year we're launching the 2023 version. In terms of our methodology, the approach we adopt in putting this report together is both an online and offline approach. And so typically we would have boots on the ground, visiting and engaging with with nano, micro, small, and medium enterprises across the 36 states in Nigeria. Last year, we reached over 8,600 NMSMEs, which is the acronym for nano, micro, medium, nano, micro, small, and medium enterprises. It's sometimes a mouthful. So we did that last year. This year, we expanded our scope and we covered 10,377 NMSMEs across the 36 states in Nigeria, including the FCT. We maintained our pillars, and I will speak about that a bit. But in terms, what I think is exciting, at least for me and from my perspective, is the State of Entrepreneurship Index that we release every year, which really shows how Nigeria is doing at a national level in terms of entrepreneurship, and also how states are faring entrepreneurship-wise, from the north to the south to the east and to the west. And so surveying over 10,300 businesses, we maintained our indicators or our pillars, and our pillars include business performance, it includes skills acquisition, we look at innovation and technology adoption, and we also look at perception of future opportunities and then the enabling business environment. And so I will quickly talk around this index in terms of what it is looking like this year. This year, we have a national score of 0.52. So that's slightly above average. And it's a decline from what we had last year, which was 0.57. And in a way, we can allude that to some of the macroeconomic instability that we have experienced and just some of the issues that we've all been experiencing vis-a-vis some of the policies that have been introduced, such as the Naira redesign, the Naira scarcity that followed. We also had a transition in government. We also have fuel subsidy removal. We also have, we had and we still have foreign exchange fluctuations that continue to, gallop, right? So that could be, we could infer that could be responsible for the decline in the national score for entrepreneurship in Nigeria as we speak. But looking at the pillars, it's interesting because typically for the 2 years that we've done this or put out this report, we've had perception of opportunities top the rank, come up as a top pillar. And what that means is despite the hurdles and despite the issues and very real challenges that exist, Nigerian entrepreneurs are optimistic, like they say, we dey here, we know they shake, so no matter what, Nigerian entrepreneurs remain optimistic. And then coming at the list, we have enabling environment. Now, interestingly, this year, we found that there was a decline in perception of opportunities, and I would explain. Perception of opportunities still came up top, but in terms of what the score looks like, we had a decline. So last year, perception of opportunities measured at 0.80, and then this year, it measures at 0.64. So what does that mean? That everybody has a breaking point. So people are still hopeful, but not many people, not as much people like we had last year. And that says a lot about what is happening in the business environment. Last year and the year before, we had enabling environment, come at the bottom. It maintained its position, so it's still at the bottom this year. But we recorded an increase in innovation and digital technology adoption, which in a way is quite exciting to see. Last year we had or recorded a score of 0.55, and then this year we recorded a score of 0.58, which in a way just also buttresses what we see happening in terms of how people are incorporating technology to do business and to run their business operations. Now, in terms of the state ranking, because what we also do is measure the state of entrepreneurship using these 5 defined pillars at the national level, then we'd also look at it at top subnational. This year, I feel like saying drum rolls. This year, we have Kano State coming up top of the entrepreneurship index. Thank you. Now, interestingly, Kano scored high because apart from looking at the aggregate score of what makes a state come up top, we also look at what is happening around the 3 pillars. And so incidentally, Kano scored high in business performance, scored high in innovation and technology or digital technology adoption, and also scored high in enabling environment. Now, some people might say, how, why? We also asked those questions and even engaged, And so it's interesting that there are some policies. So, for example, the Kano State right now has said no taxes, has reviewed tax policies for small businesses in Kano State. And then we spoke with a couple of entrepreneurs who also just reiterated what our data was showing to say that the government is actually very supportive. So something as simple as working into the state government, requiring help, you actually get people who are interested in providing the information and supporting, So it's interesting that our data picked that. In terms of the bottom 5, we have Kogi, Kaduna, Borno, and Bayelsa, ranking, at the bottom, and then we have Zamfara coming in at the tail bottom of that. I'll quickly skim through this and then touch on the key focus of our launch this year, which is taxation, improving the tax policy environment for NMSMEs. And so to that end, we also looked and developed a report looking at taxation. And we thought it was critical because there just seems to be a gap around that with regards to a report that just catalogs what the issues are for NMSMEs in Nigeria. And so we put together that report, which we titled Unlocking Prosperity for Nigeria's NMSMEs Through Tax Reforms. And from that report, we find out that 55% of NMSMEs in Nigeria pay taxes. So we do have businesses who are paying taxes. And then I think that the data that really jumped out to me and was quite interesting was where we asked if people would be interested in paying more taxes. And we had 73% of respondents actually say yes. But what are the things they would like to see? Issues around transparency are top issues for a lot of entrepreneurs. And so the report also shows that a lot of nano businesses pay most of their taxes and levies to non-state actors than to any other agency. So these are data, this is information that we need to look at critically and begin to dissect. We also discovered that lack of information on taxes to be paid and the absence of trust in government to use tax revenues judiciously are two of the main reasons entrepreneurs do not pay tax. So when we ask people, do you pay tax? Some 55% say yes. The other 45%, why aren't you paying taxes? These are our reasons. We don't trust government. We don't think that they will use the money judiciously. Then we found that businesses in the transportation and logistics sectors are the most affected by multiple taxation. And we will talk a bit more around that, especially when moving from one town to the other, you keep paying levies. Some form of payments just has to go. At the end of the day, you literally have nothing, right? The tax process in some states, it's complex and just lacks transparency. People just don't understand it. Then there are just too many taxes and levies. Like how many? How do I know what I'm supposed to pay? So that lack of information and clarity is what a lot of entrepreneurs, cited as challenges. I really wish this presentation was up because it's up. Oh, okay, great. Because we have, if you can look at your screen, I have a list of taxes that NMSMEs in Nigeria pay. It's quite tiny, but you see, we had to squeeze, there was no space. That's to show you the number of taxes we pay. So we had to squeeze everything into that tiny portion. A lot of taxes and levies that entrepreneurs have to pay. What's the way forward? One, we're saying we need to ensure simplicity of taxes and levies. Let it be simple. If I run a micro business, I have 2 employees. What are the taxes I'm supposed to pay? And the taxes should not be shifting. This year is 10, next year is 12, next year is 15. Let it be clear, right? Then we say communicate and strengthen engagement with stakeholders, right? So let's all be on the same page. The government can be thinking in this direction, and then entrepreneurs are also thinking in this direction. So we all need to be on the same page. More importantly, or very importantly, we also cited building capacity for tax officials and business owners. We have a Vox Populi video we're going to show very shortly. And even in our engagement with entrepreneurs, the consistent feedback we get is a seeming lack of empathy from tax officials. With tax officials coming across like they just want revenue. If the business is dying, just give me my own money, then it can die. But give me my own money, right? And so there's that feedback around there needs to be capacity building for tax officials around that. Then incentivize business formulation, because that way people can come into the formal sector. Now you have a lot of people choosing to operate within the informal sector to avoid the burden of taxes, right? And like Mr. Chairman said, at the end of the day, the government also needs that revenue. But the only way this would work is that it's a win-win situation. So if we're bringing people, if we're trying to encourage people to formalize, then there needs to be clarity and transparency around the tax system. Then the final point I have is establish a social contract. So this is really saying, let's work to build trust And the only way we can work to build trust is by being transparent and at the same time being accountable for what we're paying through taxes. So I would pause there for now because we have a lot still coming up, but the report will be launched very shortly, and I encourage you to download and access much more data and insights. Thank you very much. So coming up right about now would be the launch of the report. And I would like to welcome to the stage our chairman, again. Please join me in welcoming to the stage the chairman, Faith Foundation, Mr. Fola Adiola. Joining him on stage will be the executive director, Adenike Adeyemi. Please a round of applause for her. Also joining them on stage is Mr. Taiwo Oyedele, who is the chairman, the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms.
What am I supposed to say? Okay, I will describe the report. For those who have hard copies, if you turn it this way, it's magical actually. This is one report, and if you turn it the other way, this is another report. So it's not a printer error at all. It's deliberate. We just put it in one book instead of two books. Number two, it is free for those who download. But when I was young, my mother used to tell me that the only medicine that is not appreciated is one that is free, and people used to keep them in the kitchen behind. But it's free. It's free. For how long Amaka will keep it free, I don't know, but for now it's free. Number three, it has a lot of content. Even if you don't use it, just be amazed by some of the things. See the example of Kanu. If we were talking at Ikoyi Club or whatever club, everybody would probably swear that Kaduna will be ahead of Kanu. Yeah, that's not what we found. And that's the problem. So many things are done on the basis of what we think, not science. Science is what you see, what exists, you put it down. You don't have to like it. If I throw this thing up, it will come down. I don't have to like it coming down. But it's not going to stay up because I don't like it coming down. That is and it's a lot. But you can read it in bits. You can read it behind your car, and so on and so forth. And it then sharpens your skill when you go and meet government officials. You know, there are areas you refer to them that they themselves and say, let me see. Are you sure? You know, they have never come out to claim that they know everything. No. So if we're able to face or support our argument with data, with evidence that other people have paid to bring to our use, then the outcome of our conversations or of our advocacy is a lot better than without data. So on behalf of the Board of Faith Foundation, and with powers conferred on me by Amaka, okay, you know, I just keep taking instructions from... One of the things that Amaka said is that let's have consistency. Let this one not tell us this and another one tell us that. So Amaka told me something, and then somebody is telling me something else. That's how we've been operating in that climate. Mrs. Adeyemi would like Sheyi Bella to join. And after this one, I will not take any further instruction. All they are trying to do is to show you that I don't do the work with them, or they are the ones in charge. I just come to... Yes. The government man said you should be somewhere, you are moving. On behalf of the four of us, and if we can each raise the document, I have the pleasure to launch two reports, State of Entrepreneurship in Nigeria 2023 and Unlocking Prosperity for Nigeria's NMSMEs through tax reform. The good thing about this is this team of launchers is not by accident. We got Taiwo Edele in there, so he's also launching it, and this is through tax reform, through the work that he's doing. So this is the first phase of Taiwo's report. And then we'll wait for, and I mean, when the final report is out and you want us to also stand with you to launch it, so that people know that we are the ones launching tax reforms. But thank you very much. And as we await the next phase of our meeting today, thank you. It's hereby launched. Okay. I don't even know how to do it. Thank you. Okay, you're not seeing us. Madam, don't follow. Okay, you can see us now. Thank you. Okay, so that my hands.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much to our ED, to our board director, Mrs. Sheyi Bella, and to the chairman, the presidential committee on fiscal policy and tax reforms. A round of applause. The State of Entrepreneurship in Nigeria Report 2023 is now launched. So please download. You can visit. Actually, you can just pick up your agenda card and scan the barcode. And it will take you straight to our research portal where you can download the current reports and all of our order reports. So moving on very swiftly, we're going to take a Vox Populi video. Sometimes when we talk about issues and there's no face to the problem, sometimes it's difficult to grasp. So what we have done is to engage with entrepreneurs who have had that direct impact of the feel of multiple taxation and how the system of the taxation system in Nigeria rather has just impacted their businesses. So we will take a very short video clip coming up right now. Thank you.
Taxation in Nigeria, it's been very challenging for us. My business, I started it in 2001 in my house, and in 2005 I got it fully incorporated. I got my angel investors in, I got an office. By 2010 there was full corporate governance in my business already, so we're paying tax, payee, we had staff, we had everything. But one of the things I noticed was that every year we had a new type of tax coming in. It's either it's coming in from the local government or it's coming in from the federal government or one ministry. They just come to the office, they come with a letterhead and they say this is the new levy we're going to pay. And it didn't make sense, and because there was actually nowhere in Nigeria that could get a full list of what my business was supposed to pay every year so that I could include it in my budget. Because every year at the end of the last quarter of the year, we will have our projections for the following year. And there was nowhere for us to actually project on what our tax was. The other issue we need to address is multiple taxation. Multiple in terms of the levels, the local government, the state government, the departments. There is no harmony. The bus owners in Lagos, for example, you get your local government license every year. Like I said, we were doing almost 11 stickers. You'll be doing stickers that have Kebbi State on it. You are local, you are not traveling with your boss, yet you have Kebbi State sticker on your bus, Niger State sticker on your bus, 11 stickers, and you put them all on your bus. What are you using that for? What all that money for? It's just a way of IGR. Why do we need to have a dustbin every year? Show that your boss has a dustbin, full stop. But because you want to generate income from the person that is manufacturing that dustbin, you have now mandated us to buy dustbin every single year. We can't do that. Then you have different ministries. Hygiene, they will come with a letter, because I'm in the food sector. So there's a letter that will say you need food safety certification, you need hygiene, health and safety, you need training, you need this. Ministry of Environment will come with that. Then another ministry will also come with that. Local government will also come with that one. Almost everything on that list will be duplicated in another ministry or another local government. How many people am I going to pay for? I have my own trainers that come to train, and yet you want me to pay your own trainers in your ministry to come and train me for food safety or for health. Why? We have our own fumigating companies, yet it's mandatory that we use your own fumigating companies. Why should I use your own fumigating company? They don't want you to be compliant. So when you're driving on the road and they stop the bus and they find out that you have all the taxes, you have all the stickers on the bus, they'll come up with something new. 3 months ago, we just started this new tax, agricultural something, environmental something. Something just comes up, and it was a burden every year. Every year they'll come up. Then again, of course, we were not making profit initially. And as a tech company, they saw that as a profit thing for them. So they'll come into the office, they'll look at your turnover, and they just give you best of judgment. So even when we have filed, we have audited our accounts, we have done everything, they'll come and they say they don't believe you, that you have made so much turnover and you cannot pay tax. The question is, we are fully audited, you've come to check our books, and you are now telling me that because of my turnover, I have to still pay you tax, apart from the minimum tax. So you come up with a best of judgment. What do you mean by that? So you just wake up and you just put in a figure and you say, we have to go and pay it. And this keeps happening every year. I can remember there was a year that they said my salary had not changed for about 2-3 years, and that I'm supposed to have a higher salary, I'm supposed to have a PA, I'm supposed to have house staff and so many other things. I'm like, what does that mean? You are working for government, they change your salary, they increase your salary every year. I'm a private sector. Have you noticed that many companies have closed down? And they said, no, you can't be earning this salary, you can't be, we had to go over and over and fight them. And I had to tell them, I've given you my bank statement, you can see my payment in, I've given you my payee, I've given you my pension, everything that I pay. You have seen the records and you're still saying no, that there's one hidden money somewhere. So they actually are not interested in keeping businesses. It's as if they just want you to fail. As far as I'm concerned, they are meant to help us, especially those of us that go out of our way to pay tax, pay our payee every month, remit payee every month, remit VAT, do pension, do all those things, and we have our records. They are supposed to be the ones to come and say, how can we help you? How can we help your business? That was what we were expecting. Every year, for as long as my business has opened, they come, sometimes they come maybe in about 2 or 3 years, they say they want to do a 5-year audit. They'll do the 5-year audit, it's stories. They'll come, you give them lunch, you give them drink, you give them transportation and all those kind of things. And it's very crazy. I remember one year they said all this entertainment and PR that we wrote in our audit, that we're not supposed to put entertainment and PR. And I said, if you come to the office and I entertain you, that is entertainment. If I buy you lunch, I'm going to put it in entertainment. If I have a visitor in my office and I buy you visitor food, that is entertainment. If I give you something for coming, like goodbye, that is PR. I have to put it in my books because I have a board of directors. I need to tell them how I'm spending their money. And they said, no, we cannot put that. Why should I put that in my audited report? I have to find a way to put it. I said, I'm not going to find any other way to put it. PR is me giving you money when you come for transportation. If I buy you lunch when you come, that is entertainment. My directors have to know how I spend their money. My business ended in August, and that is almost officially 18 years, unofficially 22 years of business. I'm not going to blame the tax office for my business closing, but they're going to take a big chunk of it. There's so many reasons why we closed down, operating expenses and so many other things, but I'm going to give them a big chunk of that. Over the years, I'm going to give them a big chunk of that, and I'm hoping that they're going to do better. I'm hoping that this expose would give them the information they need, because I know that when we closed, I spoke to some people on the board of the new tax committee, and I told them that, look, these are the things they should do so that other people will not be affected, people will not be frustrated running their business in Nigeria, because it's very important that we all pay tax, and it's very important that we all not avoid tax. But if they are transparent, if they make it easier for everybody, we will all pay the tax, because we can see things that are being done, but we are being frustrated in many ways. Very quickly, what I can say that the government can do better is transparency. There has to be a place, a source, online or in every local government somewhere, that every year business owners will know the tax that they need to pay. The hairdresser will know all the taxes, local government taxes they need to pay. The mechanic, the business owner, depending on the sector and depending on the state and the local government, we need to know the tax. You can't just wake up one day on the road, someone will stop you and say, oh, this is the new tax that was introduced 3 months ago. Or they'll come to your door and knock on the door and say, this is a new tax. Because you have almost every ministry coming and they are duplicating this tax that you're paying. All of them want you to pay. I have a training budget that we train my staff every year. They still want me to use their own training personnel. Even when I have trained my staff, I have a certificate for the training, they still want me to use. So that gives me the idea that they want to do IGR. They are not after my staff getting trained, they're just after their own people getting paid for that training. They need to be very transparent. If your tax is closing down businesses, then there's a problem. If their mindset is to go to a business to overtax them in such a way that they cannot even run businesses, they are closing their door. You are not even giving them enough notice. They are not telling them, like when I was talking about the television that they said I must pay for, and there's no television in my office. But because you want money, you are just coming and telling me that I have to pay that money. It just shows that you are not after me opening my doors. You just want money. And that shouldn't be, and that is really very sad, that you just want money. If a company is making a loss, your job is to find out why and what can the government do, especially if it has to be the environment or the laws. What can the government do to give us an enabling environment? When you're talking of ease of doing business, we talked of ease of business for so long, we forget that it's the existing businesses that we should be looking.
Okay, and that's our Vox Populi video on taxation. A round of applause. You can clap if you want to clap. Sometimes when you hear the stories, it's really, it's just mixed feelings, But at the same time, it's great that we're hearing or getting this direct feedback. We just listened to Saudat Salami, who is a proud Faith Foundation alumni and has been running her business for over 20 years. But sadly, that business has grinded to a halt, like literally. And a major reason or factor that has led to that is the issue of taxation and just multiple taxation. So it's a great thing that we're discussing this crucial conversation today. To continue the conversation around this, please join me in welcoming Mr. Wilson Erumebo to the stage. He is a senior research fellow at the Faith Institute, and he will be delivering a micro talk on addressing the multiple taxation challenge in Nigeria. Mr. Wilson Erumebo is also a part of the research team that develops the State of Entrepreneurship report in Nigeria and also works on the taxation report.
Thank you, Amaka. Good day, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Chairman and Mr. Taiwo Oyedele, Chairman of the Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms. I stand on existing protocols. I'm here to talk about multiple taxation, and I will make 3 points. The first is the philosophy of taxation in Nigeria. Basic economics makes it clear that taxation is a tool to generate revenue, redistribute income, stimulate production activities, amongst many other objectives. But in Nigeria, what we see is that besides revenue generation, most of these other goals have been relegated to the bottom. Taxes and how they are collected have become a tool to stifle the growth of businesses, as we've seen in the video. And I can give many examples, but I'll just list one. You know, an oil-producing country like Nigeria, refineries cannot meet local needs, no constant electricity supply to keep the factories running. What did businesses do? They resorted to importing fuel to meet their needs and to sustain production, petrol, diesel, and what have you. And the government deems it fit to even put a VAT charge on diesel. This is besides you not providing all the things that you should do. And in fact, I dare say that if we truly care about supporting businesses, we never should have thought of that policy in the first place. Yes, even though it's suspended, but it's suspended for just 6 months. Suspension is not enough. I think it should be cancelled. Entrepreneurs were already paying the cost of inefficiencies of government, by providing their own power supply. And the government thought that cost is not enough. Let's even add more to it. Talk about all of the activities, of both state and non-state actors who view businesses as a revenue collection point, regardless of whether they grow or not. I think this philosophy must change. The second point is on the challenging tax ecosystem. Entrepreneurs in Nigeria are dealing with too many actors within the tax ecosystem, in addition to the stress of managing their businesses. Regarding tax collection, some state governors are competing with the federal government. Local governments are competing with state governments. Non-state actors are competing with both state governments and local government. It is difficult to identify who a legitimate tax collector is. Some of the non-state actors claim that they represent the state and local government, while others would collaborate with the government, in one way or the other to collect tax to meet certain revenue targets. This ambiguity endorses the extortion and harassment that entrepreneurs face. In fact, and as Amaka pointed out, in the 2023 State of Entrepreneurship Survey, 80% of entrepreneurs said they do not know the number of taxes they are required to pay. Many businesses have had to shut down, as we've seen in the video, because of this problem of multiple taxes amongst all the many other issues that businesses are facing. In the last 3 years, as Mr. Chairman rightly pointed out, multiple taxation has ranked among the top 5 challenges that entrepreneurs face, according to the SOE surveys. Our Tax and Levies Act is primitive and specifies the collection of fees for wheelbarrows, bicycles, and carts in this modern century, the 21st century that we're living in. We urgently need to review that act, and I'm glad that Mr. Taiwo Oyedele is here, and I'm sure they would make reforms in that regard. And we need to also streamline the number of taxes. I'll end with this story, and it's my last point. A few days ago, because I get inspiration when I travel and move around, a few days ago, this was on Sunday, I decided to take a road trip from Lagos to Ogun State, near the Idiroko border. And what I saw was hell. It was the typical experiences of the average Nigerian. So many checkpoints, so many stoppages manned by police officers, FRSC, customs. At every stop, the driver would get down, go to the back, and then come back in. I was like, Oga, what did you just do? I just settled them, or I went to settle Oga. As we moved on, there's another stoppage. And, all of these payments are reflected in the cost and the price of transportation of goods and of persons. And we talk about inflation. It's not just driven by monetary factors. But the question is, who in government is looking at addressing all of these issues? And for the policymakers, it's not just about sitting in the offices and making pronouncements. Go to the streets. Take off your suit and tie. Apologies, Mr. Taiwo. I didn't know you were going to wear a suit and tie today because I prepared this, a few days ago. Go to the street, take off your suit and tie, and see what people are going through. These guys, enter the bus, enter the downfall, and see what Nigerians are facing every day. There are so many areas in this country begging for reforms, and we must make sure we implement those reforms. But here's one last interesting observation about that trip I took 2 days ago. The major road leading to that border is in a horrible state. Even though you have big companies, multinationals on the left and on the right, you have one of the biggest churches in Nigeria there, and the road is so bad. The town I visited, most of the towns had no major hospital. All the inner roads are bad. There was no water. Electricity comes occasionally, and it's low current, low voltage, as we would typically say. Essentially, these people do not feel the essence and presence of government. They only feel that perhaps 4 years when elections are coming, campaign, and they move away. Pardon me, I'm using Ogun State, but this is reflected across many other states in the country. And interestingly, just like Amaka said, I'll round up soon, 73% of entrepreneurs that we surveyed in this year's report said they are willing to pay more tax, provided that the money is used judiciously. And we asked them, what does judiciously mean? And they said, spend that money on education, healthcare, infrastructure, and meet the needs of citizens and businesses. Not to spend 150 million naira on a car for one person. That is not what judicious use of scarce resources is, especially at a time when 90% of entrepreneurs they said subsidy removal has negatively affected their businesses. And so, the Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms, the task is huge for that committee. I think they need to streamline their focus, because I see them doing a lot of things that I think focus on the tax, leave ethics. Focus, the tax alone is a big problem for that committee to deal with, and collaborate with other government agencies and stakeholders. Nigerians are watching. Nigerians are hoping. Our expectations are so high. We hope that policymakers will talk less, but communicate better to deliver the hope of every Nigerian. Thank you.
A round of applause for Mr. Wilson Arumebo, Senior Research Fellow at the Fade Institute, and also a Senior Economist at the Nigerian Economic Summit Group. Now, calls for applications. This is a good place to chip that in. Call for applications for the next cohort of fellows at the Fade Institute are open. If you're interested in working on policy reforms, data, and research, please visit www.fadefoundation.org/fellowship for more information and to start your application process. It's now time to hear from the man of the moment. No pressure, Mr. Taiwo Oyedele. But join me in welcoming to the stage Adenike Adeyemi, Executive Director of Fade Foundation, as she moderates the fireside chat with no other person than the chairman, the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policies and Tax Reforms, Mr. Taiwo Oyedele. A round of applause as he comes up.
Thank you, everyone. And you're welcome, Mr. Oyedele. I know that he's not someone that I need to read his bio, because everyone knows him very well. But Mr. Oyedele, just before he was appointed as the head of the committee, of the Presidential Committee for Fiscal Reforms and Tax Policy, had done over 2 decades focusing on tax strategies for clients across different sectors. And I think everybody also knows that he was the one to go to. Once there was a tax pronouncement, you just look, what has Taiwo Oyedele said on it? I remember our WhatsApp groups, our Faith Foundation WhatsApp group with Bonnie. Oh yeah, where's the link? Oh, he has posted something. Let's look at it. Because he had a way of breaking it down, analyzing it in very simple forms. So my first question to you, sir, how is it on the other side? You know, people say it's easy to advise. Come and join us. So how just in terms of, and it's important that we ask these questions because part of the challenge is we always want people who are in the private sector doing work, also doing the work. So this was one of the appointments that people said was a round peg in a round hole. And so how is it on the other side?
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
I think let me start first and foremost by appreciating Faith Foundation and my big brother, Mr. Fola Adeola. You inspire us. And my sister and everybody working behind the scene. This is really commendable. I was on the mailing list for NEST. When I saw that there was going to be a retreat on this, I said, wow, this is exciting. And I've been using that example for many other organizations. I said, just there complaining, go and do retreat, bring data. So when I got the invitation, I said, wow, how on earth would I not be here? So I have to move things around.
He moved flights around.
I moved everything around. I flew in this morning, and I'm flying back after this just to be here. So that shows you that this is really not only just important to me, but to the committee and to the government. So thank you so much for doing this. Now, to the question you asked, actually, there are no sides. Okay. So I've always been on the side of Nigeria and have been very consistent with that over the years. So the only thing that is different now is I'm being on that Nigerian side with more ability to make an impact than ever before. Like you put it, it's almost like saying, stop complaining, come and fix it, right? So which was why I didn't hesitate to make all the sacrifices I needed to make. My wife is still wondering whether I was smoking something. Because if somebody just wakes up one day, the next day say they resign from PwC. Yeah, and they're not going to be paid for doing the work. And I say, well, it's worth it. It's a sacrifice for Nigeria. So in my new role, just about 3 months now, I have seen the excitement from the ordinary people, from the organized private sector, from the international community, from various institutions. And I've said to myself, if this doesn't work, I have to exile from Nigeria or just stop talking forever. So I'm confident that it will work. We're very ambitious. If you hear some of the things we are planning to do, I'm hoping that this time next year you have this conference and it will be a celebration conference.
Yes.
To show the progress we have.
Yes. And we'll definitely take you up on that. And we're really happy to see that you're taking this with all the focus, diligence, and commitment that we expect of you. So for the purpose of those who may not know, what's the mandate of your committee, particularly with respect to nano, micro, small, and medium enterprises in Nigeria?
Yeah, so broadly speaking, we have 3 pillars. One is fiscal governance, which is really about how do you manage your finances, revenue, spending, borrowing. How do you ensure that your policies make sense? How do you ensure that there's coordination within the federal government, but also across to sub-nationals? See, from many of the reports, Nigerians really don't care whether the stress is coming from local government or state. They just know their life is difficult and impossible. Fix it. And someone has to do that fixing. And then number 2 is we have revenue transformation. And revenue transformation, this is probably something I've said 1,001 times. And sometimes people just hear what they want to hear. So I keep saying it, and I will not be tired of saying it. The committee was not set up to go and increase tax collection, right? But what we are doing would, as a matter of course, lead to government making more money, not from the people who have been paying it, but from those who haven't been paying. In fact, by design, what we want for nano, medium, small enterprises is to actually pay less because they have been paying too much. And by the way, I was the main advocate, even when I wasn't in this role from the private sector, that advocated for the VAT threshold to protect small businesses and also the exemption of minimum wage from personal income tax. And my news story has been, even before again getting this role, that those thresholds have to now be reviewed upward to be reflective of our society and the conditions that we face today. Because if you don't protect small businesses, then our whole aspiration of lifting people out of poverty will just be a nightmare.
Thank you very much. So I want to pick on that a bit more. And I know that you recently submitted.
Sorry, so I haven't told you the third one.
Okay.
So that was revenue transformation is both tax and non-tax. Non-tax has non-oil and oil. Oh. So on non-oil, for example, we are looking at how do you even optimize value from government assets, from natural resources, and from government-owned enterprises. Just imagine if NNPC were to be running at the level of efficiency of Nigeria LNG. Don't even go to Saudi Aramco. You'll be talking about close to $20 billion every year we should be making from NNPC. So the third pillar of our work is growth facilitation and economic competitiveness. So this is where we're looking at why is it that to just clear things from the port is a nightmare. To export is rocket science. You have overregulation. You have impediment to trade and businesses, whether you're small or large. And I hear my brother from, Wilson about focus on one thing. No, we're not focusing on one thing. The problems are so many. And if we don't solve it, who will solve it later? And one thing I've seen in my role is we do not lack resources. And Nigerians are so passionate about their country. My committee has over 70 members. Yeah. And these are not ordinary people by Nigerian definition, right? These are CEOs, people who have all the experiences. Some of them have worked with Fortune 500. And they are volunteering for free. We meet every single day. There's a meeting of a subcommittee going on every single day. The secretariat we have is over 40 people. We don't lack anything. So if a committee of 15 people will do something for 5 years, why don't we have a committee of 75 people to do it for 1 year? Because there's a sense of urgency. So let me stop there.
Thank you very much. So I wanted to go in terms of, so I want to start with issues around harmonizing taxes. And like you said, it's a very complex situation. And the question I have is that how are you looking to address that? And not just at the federal level, but at the state, local level, particularly with the issue around non-state actors and levy collection. How are you looking to approach that?
Excellent question. So this particular question is like one of the most important deliverables for my committee. And Mr. President himself has called it out. And I'm sure that if you go back to the president after the committee's work and we have everything and we don't have this, he will think that we have failed. So for us, we actually have no choice. This has to work. So the first thing we did was to go to the governors. So the vice president is a big promoter of the work we're doing. So I went to NEC and presented our thoughts to them, including how we want to address multiple taxation. And they were very receptive. We already have a draft of what it should look like. In that draft, all those taxes, over 60 of them officially, over 200 unofficially, will be less than 10. They will be less than 10. Combined for all levels of government, they will be less than 10. And actually, we are working with 8 as we speak, and no one will have to pay more than 4. So it doesn't matter what you're doing. Even if you're a big company, it will not be more than 4. And we're focusing on how can we outlaw cash payments, because this is the biggest problem. So there are some local governments, they said they had outsourced tax collection. So they asked somebody to give them 100 million naira and say, you can go and collect the taxes. So the guy is just printing receipts and collecting all manner of tax. Of course, there's a lot of corruption in that whole arrangement as well. So we had a very, very productive retreat with the Senate. We spent 2 days. We were just discussing the work of my committee. And some of these ideas we've shared with them, and they're very not only just receptive, many of them are even our promoters, including the Senate President. We're trying to have another one with the House of Rep. Now, we know that we have to go all the way to the Constitution itself. Yeah. So we're planning to amend even the Constitution. We are rewriting all the tax laws. So they will be simple, they'll protect the poor people and vulnerable, they'll have thresholds that make sense for small businesses to thrive. We are creating what we call a revenue single window for Nigeria. So this revenue single window will be a portal. It would also be an app. You go there, anything you cannot find there is illegal. Because it means if you go there, you can drop down by state, by local governments, to tell you what you're doing and the taxes you need to pay. And not just that, who you need to pay to, so that there's clarity about these taxes you need to pay. I was at another event yesterday, a report that was sponsored by the World Bank, and it actually shows that the more the number of taxes, the less their awareness, and therefore the lower the collection, right? So we're just creating complications for ourselves unnecessarily, which actually are not getting to the government. So once we outlaw cash payments, and we automate how you make payment, and it will be as simple as star something something star hash. You don't need a smartphone, you just need a phone. If you don't have a phone and you don't have a bank account, you should not be paying any taxes, right?
I'm actually happy you are bringing this up, because if you even use the example that Wilson spoke about, a lot of the people that are in the nano and micro segments are not financially excluded. They're financially excluded. They don't have banking apps. Even the phones that they have, they really are cut off from a lot of these things, but they're the ones that interface the most with the non-state actors. So how are you then looking to bridge that last mile that are the most impacted, but do then right now may not have access to these digital tools, the interfaces that would enable them have the information and also do the processing for the taxation?
Yeah, so what we are trying to do is we're going to profile everybody. One of my videos that went viral and people misinterpreted it was they thought we are trying to extort money from everybody. Is you need to get data about all your citizens. This would even help with conditional cash transfer. So if government decides to help people, we've seen videos of one bag of rice was meant for one family. It ended up with half a bag for a whole village, right? So on one hand, who says it's rice that I want? Maybe I want beans or yam or gari. Why are you giving me rice? So you can use, and one analogy I always make, or one example I use is, from your phone behavior, I can know whether you're poor or not, right? So somebody has loaded 200 naira and they flash for the whole month. You don't need a prophet or anyone to they are just poor already, right? If they don't have a phone, whether it's mobile or not, they should not pay any tax by whatever name it is called. We're not trying to reach them to pay tax. It will be to try and reach them to help them, right? So what we are planning to do is, once you get to that point where you can do start something, and it's 400 naira and you pay it, and you do hash, it sends the receipt to that phone. Even if you delete it, there's a star something to record the receipt. So all these other touts and non-state actors who are all over there, we want to include them. Their inclusion now will be, if they stop you, they say, Madam, Oga, can I see your payment? You bring out your phone. You shall not pay in cash. If anybody forces you to pay in cash, part of our plan is, because sometimes you're in the middle of nowhere, right? It's not the time to code the law. And reference type will delete. You pay, and there will be a platform for you to upload what you have paid. Once it's validated, you get your money back with an admin cost, because it will stress you to be able to do that. And the state or local government that collected from you will have that amount deducted from their entitlement. So we're trying to put structures in place that will not be a function of who is there per time. It will be a function of the system has been built and it can be sustained over time.
Thank you. I'm going to take 5 questions, 3 questions here and 2 questions online. Somebody has already raised their hand. So 3 questions. So please, after my next question, I'll start to take some questions. The next question I have is then, what are you then doing around communication, mobilization, engagement, awareness, because that's also the gap that we've also seen that has existed. So even when these policies are implemented, there was something the chairman said around there are quite a lot of policies that are available for businesses to take advantage of, but they don't know. How are you thinking of that? And then who are you working with in that regard? Again, for nano and micro businesses in particular.
Yes, so, I'm very big with communication because I just think it's important to always, which is why before my new role, I'll simplify policies. You don't need all those 20 pages. You need 5 bullet points people can relate to. So we plan to do that. So we've only just started our engagement now. We have a dedicated portal where you can, fill a form. We have a dedicated WhatsApp account. We have a dedicated email account. We have physical address in case you don't have all those luxury of internet. You don't have to even type it. In fact, you can record what you want to tell us, right, if you're able to. And then that phase, I think, ends tomorrow, 15th. And then we start interactions. So where we're going to have physical meetings, we're going to have many of them online. But we know that not everybody has access to Zoom. So we're also going to have physical ones in all the geopolitical zones. We have a dedicated session for SMEs. So the whole idea is we don't want to pretend because we know we do not have all the answers. We want to listen to Nigerians, and we have promised that everyone that has something to say will be heard. And everything that people tell us, we will process. This is not a committee where you overlook anything. We have 46 students from across Nigeria that we've taken on board, and we're training them now, together with more than 30 people who are professional people in the secretariat, and they're going to be analyzing all the data, sentence by sentence. And that is the way we're going to develop our policies, and we're going to have exposure draft for many of our policies. We're going to be writing new laws and all of that. We expose them, listen to the people. And a part of our plan is to, when we're done, translate those things into Yoruba, Hausa, Igbo, and Pidgin. Keep it very simple in a way that people can relate to. And once you have, in fact, we're trying to do some of them now before we're able to amend the constitution because it will take time. So we are working on an MOU with the state governors to say, why don't we just agree, since we said it's the right thing to do, so suspend these taxes. And we have a list of taxes we want them to suspend in the meantime. When we create a single window for revenue, you go there and you find everything to do with taxes, levies, and fees, which, by the way, should not be many anymore. So it will be easy to go through and see the ones that you need to pay. So that's part of our engagement plan. We're going to engage even with Nigerians living with disabilities. One of the most heartwarming moments for me was, I was coming out of a premise, and then there was a man who was on a wheelchair, and then he stopped me. I said, sorry, sir. And then he turned his phone and said, is that you? So he turned the message I had posted saying that we engage with people living with disabilities. And he said, thank you for remembering us. We're working on our submission, and you'll get it very soon. And I'm actively looking forward to their submission because they are Nigerians too, and they must be heard.
Thank you very much. A last question. I'll use the term that we used at the NESG retreat. What is your sprint? What's your marathon on this journey?
So we divided our work into 3 phases. We have what we call the quick wins, and that's what has been out there. And that's even just a small part of our recommendations, because I've also learned very quickly that you can't share everything you want to do in advance. There are people who just don't want these things to work because they benefit from the status quo. Anything that will change the status quo, they'll fight it. And they're not ordinary people. Some of them have resources almost equivalent to a state. So they can fight you with everything, even including death threats, So, and I've said that there are people who die trying to do skydiving, So if anything happens to me wanting to help my country, then I've lived a good life already. So we are managing that process. So I say to someone that the most difficult part of my job today is stakeholder management, not doing the technical stuff. The technical stuff looks like bread and butter. You know what the solutions are. But if you don't manage stakeholders well, you work so hard and there'll be no result. So the quick wins are, how can we intervene with impact of subsidy removal on the people, FX, management. We've all complained that there was no coordination between monetary and fiscal policy. Now we're trying to get those coordination. CBN removed the restriction on 43 items. I asked Customs to give me the list. It turns out there were more than 1,500 items that we call 43. We are now going through them line by line to say, are there some of these products that Nigerian companies are producing? You need to increase the tariff to protect those companies. Are there those that you need to reduce the tariff because they are input into production, so that you can. So we're having better coordination now between the two major organs of government policy. The second phase is what we call the critical reforms. That's for 6 months. For critical reforms is when we are rewriting the laws, preparing amendment into the constitution, and then we're even developing standard code of tax law harmonized already for states that they will just adopt. Put the name of the state on it so that we also help them do the right thing. Then the third phase, which is the last one, is implementation. One good thing about this committee is not a committee to write reports, submit white paper, and then we also go into fasting and prayer that it should be implemented. No. It's a committee where you come up with an idea today, discuss it tomorrow, it's approved the day after, you begin implementation immediately. So all our phases, quick wins, critical reform, and implementation are running concurrently. So the things you see in the quick wins report, we are in the process of implementing them as we speak. So that is the milestone for our committee.
Thank you very much. I'll take a few questions. Thank you. So hands raised up here. Do we have any here? It's going to be interesting. So I will spread it across the room. Mrs. Teja Abisoye, 1. I will take 2 here, 3 and 4. Yes. And then 2 online. Yes, because what did you say? Yes, so we'll take everything at once, all the questions at once, and then 2 online. I'm just extending it because we had more hands raised. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you so much for this opportunity. And I think because, again, we're talking about how do we help ensure that our policy reforms help create wealth for MSMEs. Working with MSMEs for the past 7 years, we all know the issues, all the complaints, the cries are always about tax and issues. And I think looking at the gap again for MSME funding, are there opportunities to create more incentives for people to invest in MSMEs? We see that in Philadelphia. We see it in many countries where they're building MSMEs. They're taking a lot of IPs and commercializing them because the community understands that if I put money in this, in research, I would get my incentives on this particular respect. So instead of giving government money, I'm solving the problem of government intervening and giving SMEDAN money by the private sector putting their money and getting their incentives or their tax receipts, is addition to supporting things like Faith Foundation. And today there are no incentives for giving to NGOs by the high net worth individuals to a level. But the third one, which is tied to that, is the incentives that exist. People don't even know. When we worked with youth employment, companies were not aware that if they gave us money, they could take there was a tax incentive on that. How are we going to make sure there's a lot more publicity about being able to intervene and provide funding to civil society and for other interventions? Thank you very much.
Opportunities for incentivization. Next, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I think my submission is that there should be a forum for the taxpayer and the tax administrators to actually meet, because many people that are administering taxes, and I think Mr. Taiwo should have to talk to the people in Federal Inland Revenue Service. There must be that connection for the administrator to understand what is happening at the industry. So that when you go to a company and they explain their structure to you, you can easily pick what is happening. But what we are experiencing is that people just want to administer taxes. They don't look at the practical implications of what is happening in the economy. And that is causing a lot of disconnection. Does not make government to even get the right revenue, and does not actually make taxpayer to see commitment in being very, very committed to do that. So we have a situation where you don't actually feed the eggs, that lay the eggs. Along the line, birds begin to die, and there's no egg to feed upon. I think we have to look at that dynamics and transit to a win-win situation.
Thank you very much. Okay. Please, let's keep it 30 seconds. No, the lady. Yeah. The lady, yes.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mary Rosa Debayo. Sir, I don't have much to say, but I want to take a reflect back to the lady that they will show the clips. I am a copy of that lady standing here in this hall. As it stands, my health was at stake. I'm closing one of my sector. She tried to be in sector for 18 years. In my 4 years operation, I'm closing my spa today, and I'm folding up the remaining company, hopefully before next year. It puts a lot on my health. Like she said, if you can sit down and take note of every single thing she said one by one, that is what I went through this year. When I wake up in the morning to go to the office, I'll be thinking, what set of people I'm coming? Like you said, I can see your heart. I was just telling somebody, I have taken your picture. I just pray that all you wish to do, I would like to live and see you fulfill them, because you have a good heart to do something, but somewhere, someone, somewhere is working against it. That is it. Somebody, one of my colleagues, okay, I will use Lagos State because we're in Lagos State. Her family woke up one day and came to spa. They are shutting it down. I say, in my section, I know what they call medical and day spa. No notice, nothing. They shut down, say I should pay 200,000 naira and come and start registration to be paying. I pay for Loma. You pay this. You pay. What she just said. Another of my colleagues, Lagos State Safety, came to her. You are going to pay 150,000. Shut down. No notice. We are paying for safety, everything we are paying them all around, and they brought trainer to train and mandated her to pay the trainer. I have the video of that one. I don't want to mention name, Ikeja here. And when she told them, what are we getting from you? Said, if you cannot operate, shut down. If you cannot pay what the government are telling you, you should close and leave Lagos State. When I embraced entrepreneur, I employed 7 staff at a start, but as I'm talking to you, I'm left with 3, and these 3, one is going this month. I'm bringing it down because this was not my dream. My health, I was never a BP patient, but throughout this year, I go about with BP drug on my pocket because that is where the state, they have put us. I'm a regular, I pay my payee, I inland revenue. If you go to local government to get the tax, what is that certificate? I was asked to pay 10,000 naira to get it. Imagine that. Consistently, because I employed an accountant, a managing firm. I have my audit every month, every year, audited account, and when they come, you still miss same story. Please, I would like you to have that woman's clips. When you listen to every single thing she said, that's exactly what we're facing and more in Lagos State. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for sharing. And the last one from inside here, I also have to say that, the most visits we've had at Faith Foundation have been from tax people. Emergency visits. In fact, my finance team knows to just send me the message. And really, I can feel the pain of just what are we paying? What have we done wrong this time? And it's always you have to put you in a situation where it's scary. Even the approach, the process, it's something. Thank you.
Thank you very much, for your time today. And we are all very happy
to be
volume,
here. Please. And please, can we keep quiet?
Right.
Thank you.
I know the submissions close tomorrow. So I just want to ask, is it possible to sort of have an extension? Because a lot of people have so many submissions to, drop in. And I'm sure even the international community, they're also very much interested in this because they're also players in the Nigerian, environment. My second question is on the Startup Act. I've looked at it. I know it's focused on the tech companies or digital companies, but there are also other sectors of the economy that, should be encouraged, like the power sector. We have a huge deficit in our infrastructure, roads, construction, and quite, a lot of other sectors that should be given that form of advantage, to enjoy from the benefits that the Act offers. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, our chairman has a question. Please.
Sorry, the chairman doesn't have a question. Fola Adiola has a question. And it's not a question. You know, there's something called psychological anchor. When a discussion starts and somebody says, I'm closing my business. I'm closing my business, to me always, it's like I've lost a child. Okay, because so many things happen to that person. So, and I've lost a child is a matter for the heart. It's never a matter for the brain. What we are trying to do here is to use the opportunity and bring out matters for the brain. Otherwise, the heart will take us where we don't want to go. It's not an emotional issue. We also know that we live in a country where most people run away from compliance. Every law that comes out like this, the first time we read it, we're so adept at finding how we are not going to do, how we are going to
evade it,
controvert or corrupt that particular act. So, truly, there are bad people. The sample here may not be representational of the bad people because they won't attend conferences like this. But the outcome here is intended for Nigeria, not for the people here. So why I extend compassion to people who are closing their business. In fact, I was asking the lady that spoke last, why are you closing it, inside me, and can we still see what can be done, and so on and so forth. I want us to also understand the governments that get themselves to a point of laying people on the road. Perhaps that was how they can even get anything from people. I know, not because I was old enough, I know that the Western Region government, in funding free education under Chief Awolowo, put people on the road to be taxing people who are moving from here to there, or to be taxing farmers as they were coming from the market. It was primitive then, but it served their purpose because the only money they could access was taxation money. Today is extremely primitive, and we need to also continue to educate our friends, our associates, that paying taxes, next to worshiping God, it's a sacred act, Even Christ, when they asked him, said, give unto Caesar what is Caesar. That is the tax, so it's not that go and give Caesar money. Okay, go and give to Caesar what is Caesar. Tax is how we shape society, how we do the road. Which one will come first? Me to pay first and then insist on their doing it, or they? I also think that we should get out of this they and us mentality. Like I said, the gentleman in front of us was part of us 4 months ago. Now, has he changed? Is he a different person? And then we now see him and say them, and that they are pushing us. Who is he to push me now? I know him. He can't push me because I'm not pushing him. So I want us to, and you will have received so many comments like this, but I also like for us to sort everything out through the head, so that we are clear what is what. When you get to the hospital and you need an injection, they pierce your bum. Yeah, nobody wants to pierce anybody's bum, but that is or give you a medication that is bitter. But you don't take it, you don't get well. So there are areas that will happen, especially for people who are rich. They don't want to pay anything. We need to take from them. And I'm glad that those who are poor, we need to find the balms, to soothe their pain. I think that's the balance that I will suggest that you work with. It's not a church matter or a mosque matter. It's something that modern societies have done with amazing success. And for our own society to become modern and to become a decent society, things have to be done. People don't want to pay at the toll gate because they are big people, and it's closer to the toll gate that the lights start shining in front of their cars. And the hapless man there, who is just employed to collect his toll, just is forced to raise the bar. And the one that he can find, after being treated like that by those who have, what does he do? He uses his power for those who he can catch. And then we remove this man's inhumanity to man over time. But we need to ask ourselves, what do we want? A working society, a modern society that can deliver a government, not dividend of democracy, deliver service properly, and we pay for that service, or a primitive society where the survival of the fittest and the weak will always perish. It's just a thought. Thank you.
So 2 online comments. Collecting revenue through the FIRS alone seems to take away the function of the CBN in collecting and accounting for those revenues. How does the committee intend to navigate this complexity? And then the second one, another aspect of your reforms will need to focus on civil service and public service reforms. How does the committee intend to automate and retrain the civil and public services? Thank you.
All right, thank you very much for those excellent questions and comments. So on the first one about the opportunities and incentives to invest in NMSMEs, what are we doing? So our primary focus is on removing these incentives. So we're not focusing on giving incentives. In fact, what we're also planning to do is to rationalize the incentives we currently have. See the ones that are working, the ones that don't make sense. Many of them are creating distortions. If you have access, you call someone, you get the waiver. Me, I don't know anyone. I can't get a waiver. We operate in the same market. I can't survive. So we are going to tidy up that whole incentive scheme. And in the laws we are rewriting, you have a dedicated section. You won't be finding incentives. All incentives will be in one place. You know what you are entitled to. I want to remove discretions as much as possible. You don't have to know anyone to be entitled to it. If we have decided as a country, that's what you should have. There is a plan. So just to say it's a plan, this is not to say that it's been agreed. We're looking at that unclaimed dividend thing that government about 2 years said, they'll use it, and when the people show up, they know many people will never show up. So we're planning, why don't we take that money and give it for investments in small businesses? And if those people show up, then fine, then they collect it from the fund managers. So the second one, forum, we should have a forum for taxpayers and tax administrators to meet so we better understand ourselves. I do agree with you, 100%. So we think this should be an ongoing conversation. Every country does it. You may even understand my business today. Things evolve. Tomorrow you no longer understand it. You were in the private sector before. You are no longer there. Things have changed. We have to keep that communication going. So yes, we would work on that. The third one, my sister here, I felt the passion as she was saying it. And my wife also runs a small business. She does a spa, gym, makeup, salon. She has not made profit for she hasn't made profit for over 10 years. She has about 30 staff. So I'm subsidizing the business. We would have been better off if she didn't do that business for 10 years. But every time we remind ourselves that is 30 families that we are supporting our only two-way. Most times she comes back very stressed. Even with my knowledge and contact, they stress her as well. I said to her from day one, you have to do the right thing, including paying taxes. I will prepare the tax returns for her, we will pay. They will come and say, this whole business, this is the small amount of tax you are paying. I say, give my number to them. They should come and explain to me whether she should go and print the money to come and pay them. So I fully understand. And that video, please, you share with me. We're going to play that video over and over again with all the committee members. Because the woman did an excellent job of speaking I call them the real people. So even while I was at PwC, I made it a personal effort to go to Alaba, Idumota, Baluk. I went to Onitsha. So I relate with the real people, and we know the pains they are going through, and we want to try our best to fix those pains. And I hear my brother, Mr. Fola Adeola, about, we have to make sure that this is not all about emotions, because at the end of the day, we may miss the opportunity of finding the solution. And I do agree. But I also recognize that those emotions are speaking to some pains. So you have to allow those emotions to come out. And that's when we can now relax and talk about what the head can process. So we welcome all of them, and we'll do our best to address them. There was a request for extension of deadline, granted. So we'll give the extension until the end of this month, so you have 2 weeks. In case you're wondering where to find it, fiscal reforms. Fiscal, FISCAL.
And if you can type it and flash it on the screen.
Yes, exactly. Fiscalreforms.ng. So you see everything there once you go to that website. This other question is, and I agree with Mr. Fola Adeola that there are many people who are, in fact, they set out not to do the right thing. So they just enjoy they dribble everybody, including government. So what we're trying to do is, I think personally, and data supports it, that the burden of compliance and the burden of funding government today is disproportionately on the lower end of the ladder. And that is wrong. It's a design problem. Some of it was okay 30 years ago, but because we never reviewed our laws, they no longer make sense. So that's why we're spending time to redesign it. Once we redesign, we'll say this is the threshold within which you must pay tax. And these are the few taxes you must pay. Ladies and gentlemen, we will collect it. Part of what we have to be able to collect it, and I'll let you know this, because you see, the world has really evolved. We should not go on the streets with some very angry-looking, drug-infested people, harassing people, removing side mirrors. One of the things I read that really touched my heart was a woman, a tailor. You know that thing you put on your shoulder and then you put the head on it? She had no transport money, so she trekked to the point where she was doing the business, put down the machine. Not up to 10 minutes, someone showed up and said, Madam, levy for today, 400 naira. Madam said, see, I have not even 1 naira. Please, can you come back in the evening? Maybe I would have made some money. And this man refused and removed the head of the machine and went with that. And the woman started crying. So he said, why do you do that to your people? Why would you do that? So that is insane, and it should never have happened in the first, but it's happening every single day. So we want to stop all of that. But once we establish that you should pay tax, even your phone will place a lien on it. Every 1 naira you load, whether it's data you are buying or voice, it goes to government until you finish paying your tax. So the other question I have here is from the online community. FRS, we said they should collect this, collect that. What would the CBN be doing? CBN is not supposed to be collecting taxes. CBN is a bank of government. So FRS will collect the taxes and put it in the CBN. Right, so what we are planning to do is to harmonize how taxes and levies are collected. In fact, these fees that they're asking us to pay, I'm one of you. So if government forces me to pay a fee to collect the waste in my estate, it's a tax. What they are supposed to do is define the standard, minimum standard and process for anybody who wants to collect waste. Accredit them and give a list so I can go and negotiate commercially. So the policy we are writing now It's not only a policy on tax, it's also a policy on fees and charges, how it should be done, who can do it. It should not be the agency just arbitrarily deciding how much they want to collect. It's not done like that anywhere. And then we're also developing a policy on spending. We're told that 15 airports in Nigeria are not viable. Not because the people needed it in the first place, because the governor wanted to fly to the capital city. And then we are spending more than 300 million naira every month maintaining those useless investments when we do not have road from the farm to the market so that we stop wasting 60% of the tomatoes we produce. We do not have roof over the many basic primary schools. We do not have safe drinking water, no health center. So we're saying to government, not only is it that we're going to focus on making sure there is no padding and corruption, there has to be the priority and quality of spending must address what the people want. So we are discussing with them to also have a spending framework that will hold them to. And we'll be relying on Nigerians to join us in holding our leaders to account. The last question is automation, reform of the public and civil service. This one is not within our mandate, but one other thing we've said is that if we say to Nigerians, engage with us in trying to help us reform our economy around policies, we will not ignore any input. Anything that we receive that does not fall squarely within the mandate of our committee, you have my commitment today. We'll share it with the relevant ministry, department, and agency of government. And the president has already asked the delivery unit for the federal government to work with us. So someone has to be responsible for it. And that someone will make sure that they do what they need to do. And we know that God will help us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please, another one round of applause for Mr. Taiwo Oyedele. Thank you for giving us your time. We wish you all the best. We wish you all the best and success. You have us here, and we will share with you the outcomes of the conversations and the recommendations. And we look forward to this time next year, looking back and seeing the progress that has been made. Thank you, yes, and to celebrate. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Thank you.
A round of applause, please, for our fireside chat. That was an amazing time we just had, and one that just, in a way, renews hope, you know? So, like the lady who took his picture, I joined her to say, yes, Mr. Chairman, we have also taken your picture. We'll put you in prayers, but we also hope to see results. Moving on very swiftly, I'm going to bring on board, because we're going to start our panel session, still on the topic of improving the tax policy environment in Nigeria, right? And I see our moderator. For everyone online, I hope that you've been enjoying the conversations. Please note that we have our hashtags, right? So please share the conversation that we're having here. We've heard a lot of important information here, nuggets, quotes. You know, you can even just tweet Mr. Oyedele's face to say, you know, we had this conversation and he has said he's going to improve the tax system. You know, but tweet, put out your post, and please use our hashtags, hashtag FaithPDS or hashtag PDS 2023 to get the conversation going. And so moving on very swiftly, we're going to take our interactive panel conversation on the theme, improving the fiscal and tax policy environment for Nigerian NMSMEs. And to drive the conversations on this panel will be no other person than our board director. She's a board director on the Communications and Advocacy Board Committee at Faith Foundation. And this is the foundation that oversees all the work we do. The data, the research, the policy workshops, and policy influencing work that we do. And so please join me in welcoming Mrs. Sheyi Bella, who is our board director at Faith Foundation, as she moderates the next panel. Please, a round of applause as she comes up on stage and she introduces the other members of the panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Amaka, and good afternoon, everyone, again. Thank you so much, Mr. Taiwo Oyedele. Thank you so much. That was just so fantastic. Adenika is out, she's not here now, but that was just a fantastic fireside chat. So let me just say welcome everyone again. Thank you so much for joining us at our 9th annual policy dialogue session on entrepreneurship. So thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to invite the members of my panel to come forth now. And this is something that we're looking forward to. So first of all, I think we have Engineer Jennifer Adigije. Can we please give her a round of applause? She's the SSA to the President on Entrepreneurship Development, Innovation, and Digital Economy. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for joining us today. Next is Mrs. Toyin Bashir, who is a partner at Banwa and Igodalo. Can we please give her a round of applause? Thank you, Toyin. Thank you so much for joining us. Let me also welcome Dr. Folashade Koka, who is the Director of Informal Sector and Special Duties Lagos Inland Revenue Service. Please let us give a round of applause for Dr. Folashade. And one more person joining us will be Dr. Adebayo Adams. He's the Chairman, Nigeria Association of Small and Medium Enterprises, Lagos Chapter. Can we please give him a round of applause? So today we're going to be getting into this interactive panel session. And the conversations today, I'm sure you'd agree, have been very, very, insightful and very, should I say, enriching conversations, really, letting us know about what's happening in the the tax sector generally in Nigeria as it relates to NMSMEs, as we're dealing with that. So today we're going to be looking at improving the fiscal and tax policy environments for Nigerian NMSMEs. And there are just a number of things, I think, but first things first, to start the conversation and sort of set the context. And I know that there have been all sorts of things. So for instance, we watched that video, and there was the lady in the audience who also spoke her heart about what she's been going through as an NMSME. But I'd like Mr. Professor Adebayo Adams to just kind of talk us through from his own perspective, and I'm sure that some of the things you're going to tell us will sort of corroborate some of the things that have already been said. But in your role as the chairman of the Nigerian Association of Small Medium Enterprises Lagos Chapter, I think it'll be useful to hear from you. So what are SMEs dealing with? How are they able to manage, with multiple taxation? And if you could just share with us from your own experience.
Yeah, thank you, moderator.
Yeah.
It's a tall order. And as you have said earlier, I'm sitting on the hot seat. I'm representing that organizer, that woman roasted plantain, that Akara King seller, that's Richard Card and pure water lady on the streets. And they are voiceless people. And it's very, very saddening and disheartening. If you see the rate at which small business, nano, micro, small, medium, are getting close up on a daily basis. When the chairman said they have 45 to 67 taxes being paid, it's not really kidding. It's just telling you that we have more. There's so many non-state actors that are even richer than the states. You cannot believe it. A Keke Marwa paid close to about 3,650 Keke Marwa per day. Okada paid 2,300 per day. Then the LT business paid close to about 7,000 per day. I'm talking of per day. These are not actors. You can see how big, how resourceful, how the way they are getting richer on a daily basis. The state's inland revenue does not have that. They are getting 10,500 in a year. Multiply that. And I keep on saying, are they really serious? Because they are getting this money by fire, by force.
Absolutely.
When you look at the rate at which people have been dealt with, just like what Taiwo mentioned, take up the head of the machine. What do you expect the woman to do? She will cry. Nothing happened. On many occasions, I need to thank Mrs. Coker, not because I'm seeing you. On many occasions, people from Ikorodu, from Mushin, from everywhere, keep on telling me, they are there, they have already locked up at 26 shops. I say, when you lock 26 shops, where do they expect them to get the money? And the response will be, is it because we're lucky for today or this week? What about the one they have been doing? I say, you don't know what we are passing through. When the lady mentioned to you she's having a blood pressure, she goes around with it. This is what each and everyone passed through. 3 years ago, immediately during 2019, 2020, COVID, and 2021, Anchor Borrower came out. By 182 of my members, we found ourselves in the cooperative. We went to Ogun State. The state secretary to the state government just left. We got close to about 300 acres of land. We planted maize. In the tinkle of a night, the cattle came in, took over the 300 acres of land. We have nothing less. When we handled one of the cow, took it to the police station. After, I know you will be laughing. No, it wasn't. What you are saying is what I said. Some people, some of my members died along the line. Wow, so the reason is that that is why you are asking from the direct person. Our BVN was at stake. We took the money from Central Bank. The money taken on behalf of small business. They are telling us that at the end of the day, if you don't pay whatever you have your money, then there is supposed to be an insurance. We cried. Lo and behold, NISA does not insure our farm. Premium was not paid. Nike said now they didn't give to them. Who are we going to blame? They gave it to another insurance company. Royal Exchange, we asked them. No. The insurance does not cover cow. It's an act of God. The one cow we arrested, we took to the police station. After a week, they said they don't have sale for the cow. They have released the cow. The cow has gone. We have left with nothing. It's not so funny. These are what are the problem. I used to be a rice farmer. I'm no longer a rice farmer. So when you look at all these type of things, and somebody is telling me how come the bag of rice is 50,000, I say it's still cheap. Yes, because if I have been allowed and other people we will get it right. Yeah. These are practical things. Yeah. So when they are asking you to pay for the basket, they are asking you to pay for the sticker, television and radio, even though the vehicle you are carrying does not have a radio, but you must have the license and the sticker. And these are issues that we need to look at when you talk of the multiple taxes. Yeah. So the non-state actor has really dealt with small business owner. And they tell you if you want to close your business, you can close it up. We are on revenue generation. And if they say on revenue generation, how many times will I call the governor? How many times will I call Mrs. Coker? How many times will I call the commissioner? I will look like a nuisance. So these are issues that we need to look into and see. It is not that people don't want to pay taxes. We know the National Policing on Tax have said this, that one of their major causes is just to make sure that we have a robust tax system where the small business is going to have incentives. That is what is stated, but it's good on paper. That is why I want to tackle Taiwo. Say what we are saying, this is good on paper. Look at what we are feeling, look at what you are seeing. It's not like that. So we need to come together and have a policy that's okay. Most of the policies are there, but some of these policies have some assaulted. And that is why some are dead on arrival. Yeah. And we will telling you, okay, go and bring it. If that is the case, let us see. Go and bring it. Because about 5-6 agencies of the government comes together and they be asking for the same thing. La SEPA will ask for the same thing. Local government will ask for the same thing. Why can't I use my own fumigator to do my regular fumigation? But when you look at the whole thing, I don't have a choice. You have to pay and collect the receipt. It's the revenue receipt that is needed. I rest my case.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Professor Adiba. I'm sure you have very well represented your constituency, as we started the conversations. I think one of the things that, has jumped out a lot in all of the conversations today, the activity of non-state actors, and then also just a depth of information. There's such a huge knowledge gap a lot of people don't know the taxes that they're supposed to pay. And this knowledge gap is then being exploited by these so-called non-state actors. And people generally who then get people who don't understand what they're supposed to be paying, tell them, yes, so these are the number of taxes you're supposed to pay, or who am I supposed to be paying to? And that's why we must have some faith in the work that Mr. Taiwo is doing when he's talking about how we'll get to a stage, hopefully, where we have fewer taxes and people are very clear about who they're supposed to be paying these taxes to. So let's talk about the knowledge gap issue a bit more, and let's try to examine that a bit more. I think, let me turn to you, Dr. Kuka, all right? And I think the first question I have for you is whether, is Lagos State aware of this significant number of NMSMEs that have no knowledge of the kinds of laws, the kinds of taxes they're supposed to be paying to? And also, what is Lagos State doing about it?
Good afternoon, everyone. Ekukaleo. Nagajia. I greet you, my people. Because you are speaking of knowledge, and knowledge starts from speaking in a language and in a way that people can clearly understand.
Yeah.
And that is how the NMSMEs operate, because it's not all the NMSMEs that are learned. And Professor Adebayo spoke earlier. Interestingly, I became the director of informal sector last year, and I know that one of the first people I went to was his good self, to find a way that we could simplify the process for the NSMEs under him to be able to pay. Because for me, I know that simplification and ease of doing business would bring a lot of revenue for both the state, the local government, and the federal. I call it the what, when, where, how of taxation. What to pay, when to pay, how to pay, who to pay to. And interestingly enough, the book on that I was writing, I actually spoke with Mr. Oyedele that he was going to give me the foreword. So he's actually doing the foreword for that. So what to pay, when to pay, who to pay, and how to pay to are critical in ensuring voluntary compliance. And it's not a tripod, it's a four-way stool. It's a conversation that has to do with the government, the tax administration, the NSMEs, and as well as the consultants. The consultants also must not be missing in this conversation, because they are the go-to when some of these NSMEs have issues. So it's a conversation that has to go through all that. And then knowledge, there's a lot of knowledge gap. I see people, with due respect to everyone, there are people that really are trying their best to do the right thing. But unfortunately, in the society that we find ourselves now, a lot of people take advantage of that lack of knowledge. So that's why Lagos State continues to do a lot of stakeholder engagement, taxpayer enlightenment, and education. It's a continuum for us. Yesterday, I was in Gorodome. I was dancing in Gorodome. I was speaking in Yoruba. I was having meetings with the Yaolojas and Babaolojas. And we came to an agreement, and we set up a canopy for them there. We put the printer, and we put everything there. Ease of doing business. And we had over 550 people voluntarily pay yesterday. And we are continuing even as we speak. And today, I'm in a dress. Yesterday, I was speaking Yoruba, Hausa, and all that in the market. So, how many people here would want to export charcoal to, let's say, Russia, and will not find out how to export, the quality, the fees and levies, and all? You find out all that. So it's the same thing as working in Nigeria. Nigerians, most times, we spoon-feed people. People want everything to be put on a platter, but when you are setting up a business, you need to find the to know. And all these things, there is no law in Lagos State. It's the Personal Income Tax Act. And the Personal Income Tax Act is a federal law. It's just one law guiding any state in Nigeria. And all the taxes are listed there. Yes, are some obsolete. Mr. Taiwo Oyedele is dealing with that, and I'm sure they will take that out and do the needful. So we are here. We have 40 tax stations. we have 40 mini tax stations. So whichever side of the divide you fall under, we have the Twitter, we have Instagram handles, we have the e-tax platform. You don't even need to come and see us. You can be in London, UK, you can file your returns in diaspora without any human intervention. All the conversations that we've been having here, it's the human intervention. It's the human intervention. Nigerians like to pass the buck to third parties. Oh, please, can you help me go to the tax office to go and do this? And then sometimes when people complain to me, and I say, please, can you tell us the staff that did this? They say, Mo fe wala o. I don't want somebody to lose their job because of me. Oh. I don't want to be the one to make oúnjẹ lẹ́nu èèyàn kan. But if you do not let us know, and we purge the system of these people, then how can we serve you better? People must be penalized. People must be disciplined. But a lot of people go hand in glove. You want to pay lower, so you accommodate those kind of situations. You don't want to pay at all. But where you want to comply, we are there. And will definitely make the process simple for you. In a language, we have our Form A's. They are in English, Yoruba, Hausa, Igbo. We have the whistleblowing portal that you can also take advantage of. So for simplification and knowledge, I think I'd want to stop at that for now. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Koka. I think just something to just take on from something you said. I think you highlighted personal income tax. Some of the feedback we're getting in the room, just even from the conversations, I'm not certain that it's just personal income tax. I think the worry for many other people, it's that the levies, they're the things that just keep showing up. And the things that they haven't planned for. It's easy to plan for personal income tax, but I think the issue is when somebody is coming and just knocking at your door and just talking about all sorts of taxes and levies that you have to pay. With personal income tax, I guess you're probably also looking at generally, and I think this is what Mr. Taiwo also spoke around. People are generally looking at taxes on profits. But when you're dealing with your levies don't care about whether you make profits or not. They're just taxing whatever income they can find in your hands. So I guess that may also be one of, the sort of mismatch or something. So even with the levies, are people aware of these levies? I mean, Saudat, who was speaking, talked about how today is one levy, tomorrow is another levy that she's dealing with. So I think it's when we start talking about the levies that people are actually, complaining and saying it's a bit too much for them.
Yes, correct also. So I think maybe we should go the way of definition.
Yeah.
Levies, fines, duties, charges.
Yeah.
Yes, you pay charges if you have a land use charge. Where you don't have a land or a property, you do not pay charges. Levies, maybe you belong to an association or whatever, or maybe at the local government level, you might have levies that you can pay. Traffic offense, you pay a fine. So there are some things that people call multiple taxation, that it's not really multiple taxation. If you don't have a land or a property, you would never pay land use charge. But where you have a land or a property, you will pay land use charge. Where you earn an income, you will pay direct assessment or payee. Where you do transactions or business that has to do with VAT, you will pay VAT. But if you do not, then you will not pay VAT. So now the non-state actors.
No, but before we get to the non-state actors, just so that we follow within the context of knowledge, and then I would then go and ask the questions generally around non-state actors. But just on the state of knowledge, let me just read something. I know that I think Wilson had mentioned it when he was presenting. But from the State of Our Entrepreneurship report, it does say that from the research that was done, 80% of entrepreneurs said that they are not aware of the number of taxes they're required to pay. So that's a problem. So and that's feedback.
That's information gap. Yes. But the information gap, this knowledge is available. It's on the e-tax. It's in the personal income tax. But where you want to hide something from people, put it in a book or put it in a document. So the knowledge, and then I've been doing stakeholders engagement for the past 2 years. Tie and die. I'm in every association. And so I'm wondering, the bakers, the hoteliers, the people that have these small bars and all that, we are having those conversations. But beyond those conversations, are you doing the to know? When we were young, we used to watch this movie, I Need to Know. So I need to know is all those things that our parents could not tell us. They told us through that program.
So Dr. Coker, let's ask Professor Adiboye, what are we doing about I need to know? So there is the question that definitely from the feedback, there are definitely issues around knowledge, the knowledge gap. People don't know. But what are you then doing, with organizing people within your platform? Tax literacy, generally. What are we then doing so that it's a two-way street? We have government saying, well, we're trying on our own part to tell people, and then how are the people also trying to educate themselves and give themselves, and become more knowledgeable?
Yeah, thank you. The tax literacy is very, very important. You know what to pay, who to pay to, and different types of payments that need to be paid, and at what time. And if there is additional charges or fines, we need to understand what to do concerning that. In 2017, 2018, we had this very serious issue with Federal Inland Revenue. And the issue was that Nigerian being what we are, we always take advantage of things when it comes up. But you just look at, there's this gap of mistrust. Why should I pay? And the Federal Inland Revenue came up that they are going to give us some charges, and they're going to report and delist some of our organizations. We wrote a letter to the Federal Inland Revenue Service in Abuja, letter of advocacy, and we requested for waiver for those 2 years that we couldn't meet up. They waived about 3 years for us. That was 2017, 18, 19. Yeah, until when the time of COVID. You see, it was given specifically to the National Association of Small and Medium Enterprises. We started it with GIZ and some other organization. We did it. And the waiver was granted, and a lot of small business came back. Because initially we look at it that what can we do? They said they are going to hammer us, clear all the Nigerian businesses, and we see where we are going to get the money. That was part of our advocacy. And they say, you are saying the truth too. There is nothing, if every business collapses today, you too will go because you won't have any job to be doing. So we now said, if that should be the case, what can you do for us? And that is where I mentioned that Lagos, they are doing their own little way, just like what Dr. Mrs. Sefolacha Koka said, now moving around, I experienced it then, to the extent that they even came to the office. Remember I told you something. No matter how smart you are, people will sleep with one eye and be using the other eye to open and see you. If you ask about 500 to come, only 20 or 10 will come. And lo and behold, we did the similar thing. I almost got myself fired from the office. Do you know what happened? And I explained to Mrs. Coker that this is what we did. 2016, 2017, we gathered ourselves together. We got all the data based on the trust given to me. I collected my people's data. I submitted it, and that means I took them as a lamp to the slaughtering abattoir. And the next thing, they use it against them. Now they have gotten their data. They know how much. They know where they stay. They know their telephone. They are starting harassing, and it become an issue. I told Mrs. Coker, I say, these are why we don't have that confidence. I've given you this, and you see what has happened. Then issue like that, until we're telling you that if you want to close your business, close your business. You see the 10,000 that you want to pay, that is a problem to us. Pay our own. We are on revenue generation. We have quota, and we have revenue and target. God bless you, to meet up. I said, notwithstanding, we still need to look at it. We need to have to build out the trust back. Whenever I call them again, you have started. You have collected something. You think you can sort us out? No. And that is part of what is happening. We try as much as possible to let them know that they need to do a lot of sensitization on their own part so that they will not think of. Part of where we find ourselves now is that we don't have the data that we can play with. How many people that you have in the business doing business legal that you have the data? No. The reason is that people are not willing to give you the same data again. They are afraid. And that is why some people now, they say, okay, instead of me using the regular bank, let me be using the offline bank. If I use the offline bank, chap, then I will pay and I won't have any record. Because they want to see your statement in the account, how much that I passed through. Nigeria will find an alternative.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. And I think that, and what you say is very important. On the one hand, you're trying to ensure that you're undertaking the different types of tax literacy that you can do with the people that you know, but there's still such a knowledge gap. You don't even have the right data, to be able to capture all the relevant NSMEs that you need to be speaking to educate in relation to that. So there is that point that also needs to be dealt as well. But I think we've kind of covered the topic on the knowledge gap issue. Very clear that there is a knowledge gap. The State of Entrepreneurship report confirms that. I think the point that we need to then also take is that from your perspective, sir, work still needs to be done. We're trying to ensure that NSMEs also must know and they must learn and they must be properly educated as well. So if we have that combination of the state trying on its own end to ensure, Dr. Folashade, thank you so much. I hear you're speaking in different languages, trying in the formal sector to try and inform people and make them aware. But I think, again, more needs to be done, particularly around the aspect of levies, which is where we keep getting that feedback, these fees and charges that keep showing up. So I think that's on the knowledge gap issue. I think the other issue that comes up very strongly is the non-state actor issue. Tony and Jennifer, I will come to you, right? So that you don't think the conversation just seems to be happening there, but I will come to you. On the non-state actor issue, I think the big thing, the messaging has been very loud in this room. And I guess, Dr. Folashade, from your perspective, being, a director with LRS, the question is, what is Lagos State doing about this non-state actor issue? Because we know specifically that people are dealing with all kinds of issues. Today, somebody comes, takes their side mirror. Today, somebody comes, takes the equipment with which they're using to work. What is Lagos State doing? A lot of people actually feel that Lagos State is actually collaborating with certain people who can actually become agents for revenue collection. That is the feedback we are receiving. So what is Lagos State actually doing to deal with this non-state actor issue?
Okay, thank you. So with respect to that, first I'll say that directly that's not within my purview because I deal with taxes. Okay, but even having said that, I know that the state introduced the issue of trying to nail out multiple levies for transporters and introduced the 800 naira per day levy because they realize that most times the buses go through a lot of local governments while transporting people. And they realized that at every local government, they were basically having to pay one levy or the other. So they brought everything and consolidated it into an 800 levy per day. And that was created. And within that, the Loma, LASMA, and all those were put into that 800. Why was this done? It was in a bid to try to reduce the transport fare that people have to pay on a day-to-day. Now, the non-state actors, yes, I know that Mr. Taiwo Oyedele is doing that at a level that is higher above my pay grade in the sense that he's conversing with the governor and bringing that political will from the governor into this conversation will be able to cascade both from the state all the way to the local government. So if there are still things like that, I know that by the time they are finished or done with their reports and they have that interface with governments and all that, I want to believe that that would be a thing of the past. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Okuka. I think it's important that that feedback goes to the state specifically. I know that Mr. Taiwo Oyedele is doing that, but we all must say that he's not a messiah at the end of the day. And so in terms of we must manage the expectations that we also have for that committee as well. The feedback must also be given strongly to the state in relation to what needs to be done with non-state actors and the negative image that they are also giving to the government as well in relation to that. So, Ms. Bashir, let me come to you now. As we start to think about the way forward and start to think about how we can explore reforms. So, Toyin, you were head of the legal cluster at PEPEC. And, you know, when we all, and you know, even when Mr. Tayodele was speaking, he kept talking about rewriting the laws. We want to do something better with rewriting the laws. So we can't really talk about tax reforms and not talk about rewriting the laws. I know that your role was really strong at PEPEC. And I know that there are so many, you know, reforms that came as a result of that, of the activities of PEPEC. So maybe you can just talk us through, you know, just some of the things in terms of just expectations from a reform perspective, and to let us know that, you know, indeed, perhaps we can have some faith in the system with relation to how these laws may be reformed from your own experience.
Okay, thank you, Shay. One of those people that have to bend.
Sorry.
Firstly, please permit me to thank the Faith Institute for not only including me as to serve on the technical committee that was set up for this event, but also to be part of the speakers with this esteemed panelists as well. Just for context, over the last 7 years, as Sheyi mentioned, I was the head of, and in fact, I still do support PEPEC, head of legal interventions, which meant that on the regulatory side, I worked with federal ministries, departments, and agencies in effecting changes in terms of processes and timeline and reviewing those processes. Also worked with subnational governments as well on essentially working through the system. So the idea was to cascade the progress that had been recorded on the federal level on a subnational level. And so the council signed off on that. So working with subnational governments, as well as the legislature, of course, working on some key legislations, including the Business Facilitation Act, which I led and coordinated towards the passage of that law, as well as judiciary, working with state governments for the first time, introducing the small claims courts in Nigeria, starting from Lagos. And now we have established the small claims courts in over 10 states in the country. So at the time, at some point, we thought that, again, data, and Mr. Jola spoke around the fact that you can't base decisions if you don't have the data. So we actually consigned a review on MSMEs. So we have something called the MSME Cost of Compliance Report. And I know that Mr. Taiwo Edele, the most called out name this afternoon, by the way. I tried to keep count how many times I heard his name, but I have to jump on that wagon as well. That when he was also having a different hat on, he contributed towards the cost of compliance report, essentially looking at just what the name of the report spoke to. And one of the issues was, of course, tax. And all these issues we have discussed were actually some of the findings as a result of that. It covered Lagos and Abuja. And I guess one of the notable ones was the fact that, again, the issues around local taxes. It was a big one. The fact that, you know, it was not just arbitrary, but it also came with harassment. So I oversee my firm's practice in Abuja, and of course, I also face these bills that come from AMAC, the Abuja Municipal Area Council, very popular in Abuja, and I'm sure that you must also have seen on TV, you know, small businesses complaining about AMAC and the assistant, and have received those bills as well. But I have the institution of Bawa and Igudalu behind me, unlike, you know, the SMEs who receive the same bills that I also receive. And this led to the inclusion of the AMAC chairman on the council. So, of course, PEPEC, as you know, was headed by the previous, was chaired by the previous vice president. And, of course, the current administration has retained it and is now chaired by the current vice president of Nigeria. And it was now very important that not only were we going to try and fix it, but we needed the main actor, the chairman of actors, to also sit on the council, hear, the stories, and also work with us in co-creating solutions for that purpose. So on the legislative side, specifically to what Shea was talking about, I mean, of course, we know that the Finance Acts were a result of, reforms that were supposed to be targeted. In fact, I do believe that the recommendation came from the Tax Policy Implementation Committee at the time that the Finance Act should accompany the Appropriation Act. And there was a mandate that the Federal Ministry of Finance should work with, the legislature to ensure that that was done. And of course, we now know that we've seen the 2019 up to the current one, which was signed by Mr. President. And I recall that one of the objectives for 2019 and 2020 was even around ease of doing business. It was around ensuring that those reforms, so in terms of reviewing those tax laws at the time, was actually predicated on ease of doing business, even institutionalizing some of the ease of doing business reforms. I had the privilege at some point when we were working on the business facilitation bill at the time, which of course popularly known as the Omnibus Bill, and we had a presentation. I had the privilege to attend the Federal Executive Council meeting when the issue of institutionalizing through legislation came up, and the Honorable Minister of Finance at the time then recommended that it should be stepped into and reserved for the Finance Act, and that was one of the reasons why we had to actually step down efforts to reform tax laws through the Omnibus Bill, because it was a very important step and aspect of reform that was necessary, given we had several stakeholder engagements, and the constant thing you would always hear is the issues of multiplicity of tax, especially on the local level. Then, of course, in addition to that, speaking to the Business Facilitation Act itself, we've talked about the knowledge gap. We've talked about the fact that information is not readily available. And indeed, in 2016, when PEREC was inaugurated, one of the first things that we tackled was transparency. Because then you would look into websites and you would see pictures of the heads of agencies and committee members and things like that. But you won't get information around what are the documents, what's the timeline, what's the process, how do I get my license? And so that was the first thing we tackled, and that was actually what led to the executive order on transparency and efficiency in the Federal Civil Service. The idea was each of those agencies had to sign a service level agreement with stakeholders like you and I, and essentially commit, stating there what are your processes, what's the cost, what's the timeline, and then came up with something also unique in terms of the default approvals, that if you don't give me my license within a certain time, or if you don't even have information that's updated, I'm actually enabled to rely on whatever is there, and you can't tell me otherwise. So the BFA now came to codify, because we had seen the progress that had been made through the executive order, which was an executive order. But of course, we had to institutionalize it through the Business Facilitation Act, and that's why it then codified those provisions. So now it is law that information should be available. But of course, we see that is a federal law. I'm aware that one of the things that's being talked around is how we can domesticate it around the states.
Yeah.
Because we're trying to move in terms of traction, full implementation on the federal level to ensure that the federal agencies are doing it, so that it is sort of like a way that you can then measure it, and then the states can also come up. So conversations have been had on the NEC level as well. So I know that that's one of the things that's being contemplated. And of course, in terms of measure, we have to continue to measure implementation. And that's why they have the report that is usually issued every half year and at the end of the year. So what it is that there's certain MDAs that are PEBEC MDAs that are measured. So are this information available? Because again, we say that there are many laws in Nigeria, but implementation is the issue. If only so many of them were implemented, maybe we can get some traction. To ensure that that is actually done, there's a team that's dedicated to that purpose to ensure that they check that those things are being done, and they measure, and then they issue reports. And I do tell you that it does work, because every time those reports are issued, heads of agencies are calling, why am I number 20? Why am I, what didn't they do right? They're constituting committees and teams to ensure that they do what is right. I mean, it's a marathon, is not a sprint, but I, as a private sector person who has been committed to supporting government on a pro bono basis
for the many pro bono supporters of government.
Yes, commitment to Nigeria. So I have seen the progress. I have seen that. I mean, of course, sometimes it's dependent on whoever is sitting, but you see, when we continue to measure, through those reports, and in fact, one was launched very recently, and all these reports are available on Business Made Easy, the website. So if you would like to, including the cost of compliance report of 2021. So legislative interventions like that are absolutely necessary, because until we actually codify them and then have, sort of like processes for ensuring that they are also measured over time. So working with the Federal Civil Service and then hoping that, again, on a subnational level, this will be replicated along all the states. And that's why also there's the subnational survey report that is issued on a yearly basis. So it measures every state in terms of compliance as well. Again, this is sort of to foster healthy competition amongst the states and to ensure that they also, see what their peers are doing. So there's peer review and they're able to then take on some of the learnings from those kind of cases. Yeah. So
Thank you. Here. Thanks so much, Tony, for that. I mean, that's really, really very detailed. And just to strengthen our belief in the fact that legislative reform works, and it has worked, and can be a tool for tax reform. So when Mr. Tayo Idele is talking about tax reforms, let us believe that it can work because it has worked. Let's come to you, Engineer Jennifer. Technology has been identified as a solution in the tax complexities in Nigeria. People have talked about AI, people have talked about how we can use technology to deal the knowledge gap information, how we can use technology to deal with collection, how we can use technology to deal with compliance. Considering your role, which includes a focus on innovation and the digital economy, how would you suggest that technology is incorporated to address the cost of compliance on the part of government and entrepreneurs?
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone. Mr. Taiwo, I must commend your dedication to nation building. God bless you and the entire Fit Foundation team for this platform, which gives us or enables us to handshake, between the government and the real people. I'm part of the real people, right?
Don't you like the way government people come here and say they're part of us? There's no side. We're all in this together.
Yeah, because I started my first business 18 years ago. So I was first an entrepreneur before being a public servant. So this conversation resonates. And with regards to technology, why technology? Technology was invented to make our life easier for us. It's supposed to be a leverage for us to drive our daily activities for optimal performance, optimal efficiency. So, and one thing that Mr. President is very keen on, and the Honorable Minister of Innovation and Digital Economy, Dr. Bosu Tijani, one of his focal points is how to accelerate prosperity for all Nigerians through digital technology efficiency. And so we're driving advocacy for technology deployment across all levels, multidimensionally, such that all MDAs and agencies can begin to deploy technology to make their activities more efficient. And those agencies, with regards to technology deployment, will be such that the technology speaks to itself. Data collection speaks to itself, and there will be flow of data, verifiable data, useful data, and we can use it as enablers, to be able to foster prosperity across all sectors. Information is very key in the MSME sector. They always say that knowledge is power, but I like to say information is wealth, because if you have knowledge without the enabling information on how to apply that knowledge, then to what end? To what end? So, for instance, there's so many enabling platforms that the government is creating to assist entrepreneurs with regards to funding, with regards to loans, with regards to grants, a couple of days ago, the Africa Development, AFDB, and Development Bank of France, have recently signed off to disburse $100 and something million to entrepreneurs within the tech space alone. And there's so many other development agencies like that are rendering one support or the other. So you just need to know what is available and where to plug in. And with regards to the policy aspect, I know a lot of us are apprehensive about, policies that end up being on paper, like Mr. Adams said. I just want to urge us to give Mr. Taiwo and his team an opportunity, give them some time to let these policies begin to, get the desired impact that the government pursues. And for the first time, we have a government that has formed a policy coordinating unit, which is responsible for, coordinating these policies, delivering the policies, and even the monitoring and evaluation component of ensuring that those policies meet the desired outcomes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. I think that because of time, I think this is a good time to engage the audience. And so before I go with my last round of questions to the panelists, I think if there are any questions or comments from the audience on any of the points that any of the panelists have raised, this would be a good time to take some of these comments or take some of these questions.
Thank you. I don't know what to say, but he has represented us very well. And sorry, ma'am, since you are in Lagos, you said that some people don't know the difference tax and revenue.
Levies.
So I'm still standing because I'm directly affected, and I'm speaking out of I can defend and take you to everywhere. When the local government revenue, when they came to my place, they said I should pay 120,000. I told my staff to ask them where they came from. They said Agege. Meanwhile, I was paying tax to Jokbemu. So I called my tax officer. She said that, I asked her, can I pay my levy anywhere? She said yes. Because the other people insisted that I have to pay at Agege. When I got there, because we don't know what to pay. But before I left my office, I did some research. I want to ask Lagos State, am I paying based on what I generate or based on my location? Because when I got there, they said, out of nowhere, okay, you can pay 60,000. I said, no, sir. This is what I saw. I'm not supposed, they say it's a TV and whatever, and I have no television in my office. It became a bargain. Finally, for the past 2 years, I've been paying 20,000 plus and other, pay 20, okay, since you are here. I say, so it's not based on what I have anymore. It's not based on what I generate. It's based on my location. No problem. Then the other one, I have to mention their name. Hafema Ma. When they came, I took my time to go through their website. SPA was not cited anywhere. That policy was created and forced into their website this year. And when I finally saw that, I thought Hafema actually controls hospitals, pharmacies, and co. But this year, they just came up and whether good or bad, yeah, we'll be forced to pay. They closed my space, lock it, no warning, nothing. And like somebody said, you have to pay at least before you start calling you or anybody. You have to get yourself out first. Yes. I know how much I paid. I actually wanted to see the Ministry of Health because I was making some research, reading around, but you will not have access to get all these information. So do you expect me to get myself locked down for weeks, months before I got everything sorted, or maybe before you come and intervene? The policy or the laws or the information is not out there. I have to search in. Then, as I'm talking to you, safety are going around again. And then on their own site, I asked, after paying this 150,000 every year, what do I get? What is it for? We pay insurance. And they sent their trainer to come and train, and you pay them. And you buy their book. Meanwhile, I did my own safety course. I have my certificate hanging over there. Why are they coming with all this? how do we make it? By the end of the year, I will end up paying up to 300 to 500. Not only me, I'm just using my, because I'm sure I'm small compared to others that what they pay are more.
Thank you.
Who are they generating this money for, and why are they? I don't want to put it tax again, because the tax I'm paying my payee. It's in order every year. I find my tax. This one I'm mentioning are just from
levies
nowhere,
and things
from they just put and force it. Check, I beg, please, if you can check on the safety. When did this policy start, and why are they generating it? The llama are there also.
Thank you.
A lot.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And they say they have a target, like Sir said last. That one is too much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And we can hear the frustration of just being bothered with so many taxes and levies here and there. And so this is why we're having this conversation as to multiple taxation with NMSMEs and how we can deal with it. Thank you so much. I think there's someone's hand here. Can we take that?
Well, I actually plan to remain quiet throughout this, just absorbing. My name is S.T. Kuti George. I'm the National Vice President of the Nigerian Association of Small-Scale Industrialists, NASI. I just want to make this quick, intervention. For entrepreneurs, one other thing that we can do is to try and join associations. You can go fast when you go alone, but you may not be able to go far. When we come together and we advocate, if they don't want to hear our voices for any other reasons, they will listen to us for political reasons.
Yes.
Okay? They came up with exercise duty, for example, of 10 naira per liter of sugar-based sweetened whatever, and it is the same 10 naira for the nano that is applicable to Coca-Cola and Pepsi. Somebody producing less than 500 liters in a month with a company producing over 6 million liters. It's part of the intervention, that we are trying to make. We already sent a memo to the committee. So just try and join an association. You have NASME there, National Association of Small and Medium Enterprises. The president of Asborn is there, Association of Small Business Owners of Nigeria. You have NASI Associate. Some of these issues you can handle at associational level. We build capacity, we expose you to market, we expose you to funding, and a lot of other things. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I think that's such an excellent recommendation. Thank you very much. Any other comments?
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
I am Oluwatosin, a Programs and Learning Manager at Eco Institute of Technology. So while I have been so attentive listening to all that has been said, then for us to get it right, there is a need for everybody to come together. And for us to actually come together, there is a need from the bottom-top approach. Because now I'm trying to look at it from people who don't really have access to this information. I mean the people in the underserved community. Many of these people, we cited an example of somebody doing the tailoring, using the machine. These are the people, these are the lower class, these are the people. Now for all our experts, everybody on the podium, what are we really doing to actually help these people assess the needed and necessary information on what to do? How often do we do it? Then number two, over time, today we have heard about people going about locking people's shop doing this. These people that are working for government, working in the aspect of levies and all, how often do you engage them in learning activities to actually know what their role, what they are supposed to do, and what they are not supposed to do? Because that is actually what we represent. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, do we have any other comments? Okay, one more and then we'll go back to the panel for last remarks. Okay.
Good afternoon. My name is Orishema Tosai Dodo Emore. I practice law and I also chair Toy Maritime Resources. My question is comment is to Dr. Coker. And it's as regards personal income tax, because you said so much about personal income tax. I see that in my organization, we have been compliant with personal income tax. But we find that we're normally almost, say, harassed over the quantum of tax to be paid by the owners of the company. Like everyone who works in the company, every month we remit their income tax to the tax office. But at all times, they say, oh, the owners of the business, their names should not be on the payroll. And so they should pay some tax that is assessed by best of judgment. And so it seemed to us that at each point, that best of judgment is judged in anger. So it's usually some fantastic sum. Yes, it's some fantastic sum, and then we negotiate, and then they bring it down. Now, as the tax office became more digital, and we could file the returns digitally, so we decided to file digitally, no longer going to the tax office. And then we got a call from the tax office saying, first of all, before, when they used to give us best of judgment, they would say, we have a target that we must meet. And lawyers of certain age must not pay this and that. There's a sum that lawyers of a certain age must pay. That's what we are told. And each of us have been given a target. So the tax office people are telling us this. And so, I mean, we argue and argue and then finally pay. Now that the tax office has become digital and we are filing, they now call us. And we say we filed on time, because they said to us, oh, we're giving you best of judgment because you don't pay on time. So the office has gone digital, and so we are paying on time. And so towards the end of the year, they call us and they say, you have paid less than you should pay. The money you have paid is too small. You have been paying that judgment that was given to us in anger. Yeah, you have been paying it. You cannot pay anything less. And my question is, even during the time of the lockdown, when everyone was at home, that judgment that was given in anger, we're still paying it. And so we say, but why should it be like that? Do you want to close the business? And they say, oh, once you have been put on a certain threshold, it cannot come down. Is that how it should be?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, you can respond to that. Again, you can sit up.
Yes. I think, okay. Hello? Okay.
Yes.
So you will have to pardon me. I'll have to start from the last speaker because she's a learned colleague. And so I'll start from there. Madam, first I have to say is that a tax administrator or a tax officer calling you and speaking about tax or target where it has to do with your tax is unprofessional. Step one. I said knowledge is power, and my colleague engineer said that information is wealth. Those are the two premises I'm going to base everything I'm going to say. As a law firm, and I've been having meetings with NBA and all that, and I'm saying, why are you guys not taking advantage and getting to know what taxation is all about? Because tax is law. Everything about tax is law. And as I said earlier, there is the Personal Income Tax Act. That is the Bible on taxation. So, and tax is not about pricing meat. No be say you dey price meat for market. No be nama. Where you go say nawa. No. Tax is guided by the law. What you should pay as tax is premised on your income or profit or what you take advantage of. It is not something like my sister said that you say, oh, let me pay 100. You say, oh, it's 60,000. No. Tax is about the law. When you earn a certain income, there is a commensurate tax to it. But that information is for the organization to find out and to know. When you want to build a house, you must visit the building approval and find out all that you need to know to be on the right stand or right side of the law while building. So a tax administrator is not supposed to tell you, because you are paying this, then you must stay there. We all know that it's a pendulum. And there are times that you are earning an income, and there are times that you are not earning as much as that, or you earn more than that. When the chairman was speaking, Mr. Diola, he said something very critical. He said that when your company is making more money, you should pay more withholding tax. That it's good payment because you are making more money. So for the law firm and for everyone here, one is when you are establishing an organization or whatever, you must know the laws that guide it, federal, state, local government. There are 3 tiers. All the taxes collectible by the 3 tiers are listed. Yes, they will be consolidated by the time Mr. Taiwo Idele's whatever goes on. But in the interim, because there's no vacuum in law, and we know that, and there's no vacuum in government, you must advise yourself as to that. Then you can advise yourself also by getting a consultant or an auditor. Look into your books. Look into what your income is. Determine what your income is, and then determine from there on what your tax due is. Your tax due is your tax due. Somebody else cannot tell you what your tax due is. And if as tax administrators we feel that based on profiling we've gotten additional, further and better information, and we serve you, we will prove to you through that, because Nigerians like to boast. You're on Ovation, you're on Instagram, when you buy your LR1, you are saying it and all that. Yes, Lagos State, we want you to prosper. We want you to flourish. We want you to thrive, because in your prosperity lies our ability to collect tax.
I like how you put it very truthfully and very candidly.
Yes. But we are not supposed to collect less or more than what is due to the state government. That is where all the conversation on integrity, credibility, it's a two-way street. But as I said earlier, if we ask now that please tell us the name of the person, you say, no, I don't want the person to lose their job because of me. But we must purge the system of those type of people. Because I'm supposed to be talking as an expert in tax and not premising my conversation with you on my target. That is a back-end conversation that does not concern you. So where the partner now has other sources of income, and that partner is listed on the payee, he will be assessed as a staff of that company on payee, and then he must declare his other streams of income via direct assessment. I hope do we understand, or should I recap?
No. I think we all understand. I think we all understand.
So that is the curveball that can now increase the amount that the partner has to pay. And then there are 2 other things. There is filing of returns and there is payment of tax. So between the 1st of every year for companies and the 31st of January, every company must file their returns. Everyone in this room has the right to file 0 returns, that you did not earn an income. But you have to now, you will not categorize you as a dependent. You are a baby. Somebody is feeding you. Somebody is clothing you. You must now tell us who the father that is clothing and feeding you, since you are not earning an income, is, so that we can now transfer that liability to that person. So you have the right to declare nil income to government where you are not earning any income. You will now be a baby, and we must know who is clothing you, who is feeding you. And remember, Just be guided that that person who is clothing and feeding you must be paying tax and paying adequately. There is also another issue of payment and adequacy of payment. So some people
Dr. Koka, we're going to invite you for a master class on tax. But before we do that, let me also just make an announcement as well here. We also have the Faith School as well at the Faith Foundation. And so for those entrepreneurs who may be in the room and want to improve their knowledge or even gain knowledge on tax management, please make sure that today you sign up for the Faith School. Thank you. Thank you very much. Dr. Koka, thank you so much for such a fantastic and almost, should I say, almost exhaustive, in terms of trying to teach us about tax knowledge. And I think it still goes back to all of this. And that's the conversation we've been having. If you don't know anything about tax, no. It's your duty to know. I guess that the challenge always comes to, but I now know. But it looks like I have to keep knowing every year because something keeps changing. Oh, but I now know. But I now have a non-state actor who is then fighting me and oppressing me. How do I deal? Because somebody is going to lock my shop. And in the interim, what am I supposed to do? Am I going to be brandishing my knowledge vis-a-vis somebody trying to lock my shop? So there's just an interplay of so many factors that we all have to deal. I want to say that it's been a wonderful session. I know I said I was going to give last remarks, but someone is giving me a look by the left, so I better just respect myself with respect to timing. One thing that I must say as we kind of wrap up, can we clap for my panelists? Yeah? And I know that when Dr. Folashade first started speaking, when she said something I was noticing in the room, we won't want to clap, we won't want to say anything. Please clap for her very well. It takes the grace of God, really, for somebody from Lagos State government to, yield and come out and say, yes, I'm still going to talk about this regardless of what is going on. I think what is very important is that we are all making ourselves more knowledgeable. And as we've said it over and over again, information is wealth, knowledge is power. And this is the essence of these platforms. And we're hoping that all of the recommendations, all the suggestions, all of the frustrations too that have been expressed here will get to the right places. And that's why we have Mr. Taiwo Oyedele here today. Yeah. One thing, as we wrap this up, I think I'd say something that I think it was Benjamin Franklin that said this wonderful quote about in life, things that are particularly certain are what? Death and taxes. So we know that we can't run away from taxes. Taxes have to be paid. We see the benefits of taxes. And sessions like this are not to crucify the government or make people feel like, no, we don't want to pay taxes. And it's good that the State of Entrepreneurship report, our focus on tax reforms, does actually say that people do want to pay taxes. And we're hoping that all that we have discussed today eventually feed back into the policies that are being put together for the tax reforms. Thank you very much, everyone. God bless.
Think about now. Okay, great. A round of applause for our panel. I think they did justice to the topic. So we would if you crave for your indulgence, so please just rise so we can take pictures. Pictures. Okay. So if we could just scoot to the middle a bit. So the gentleman in the middle. Okay, great pictures. Okay, thank you very much. So we'll just lead you to our media room for about 5 minutes for a brief interview, very brief. My colleagues, the beautiful ladies coming forward will chaperone you to the media room. A round of applause for our panel speakers again. Thank you very much. We're gradually coming to the end of the session today, the conversation on improving fiscal policy and the tax environment for NMSMEs in Nigeria. Now we have said a lot about taxation, right? But apart from taxation, there are certain levers and enabling factors that we need for businesses to thrive within the ecosystem, right? So speaking on that and doing justice to that topic, please join me in welcoming to the stage our very own Miss M. Ekong. And I need to explain this because M. Ekong is the regional head, Aspen Network of Development Entrepreneurs, Ande West Africa, and they are proudly supporting the policy dialogue conversation today. So please, she's our partner. Oh, a round of applause for one of our partners so they can come back next year.
Thank you so much. Can I have the lectern? Is it possible? So I can... It's a pleasure to be here this morning. I'm a little bit nervous. But first of all, before all protocols observed, I really do want to thank Fate Foundation, Fate Institute for inviting me here today. And please, can you give a round of applause to Fate, because they're an incredible organization, really. And I can't thank Adenike, and also forgive me my pronunciations. Even though I'm Nigerian, I'm a diaspora, and my pronunciations are dreadful. So please forgive me on that. But as I said, all protocols observed. I will tell you a little bit about Andy and what Andy's all about. But I also wanted to start off with something positive. We've heard a lot about taxation, and by God, we know it's critical. Every economy in the world relies on tax to be able to run and support the population. You know, governments do not make money, so they have to generate money from their communities. And taxation, unfortunately for us, is one of the ways that they do that. But for all the entrepreneurs that are out here, of course, you want to see where your taxation is being spent. So for me, is urging government showcase what tax is being spent on. Because if we can showcase that, it just makes it that much easier to be able to collect money from citizens, because they can see where it's going. And to me, a little simple thing, and I think that will go a long way in terms of helping. So coming back a little bit to Andy, which also might help. It stands for, as I said, the Aspen Network of Development Entrepreneurs. But we were born out of an organization called the Aspen Institute. The Aspen Institute is probably one of the oldest thought leadership organizations in the world. It was set up in 1949, just after the World War, to drive dialogue and peace. So we're still here today, standing here in 2023. And I represent one of their most successful departments, which is the Network of Development Entrepreneurs. And what we are is we are a network. We are a network of organizations. We don't work directly with entrepreneurs. We work with institutions like the Fate Institute and many other organizations that are entrepreneurship support organizations. They provide skills development, training, and a whole range of other activities, particularly on policy, which are instrumental. So as I was saying, Andy was set up in 2009 as a result of all the entrepreneurship work that was going on in the Global South. So we have 8 chapters across the Global South, starting from Mexico, Brazil. We have 3 in Africa, of which I'm the West Africa head. We also have Thailand, India, as well as part of the network. So it's a great global network to share knowledge and information. And that's one of the things I want to talk about in terms of enabling environment. Andy is the leading voice of small growing businesses, SGBs, that they call them in the United States, which really is probably the SMEs end of the spectrum, because we don't work with startups, we tend to work with organizations that represent the missing middle. The area where we need to attract a lot of investment to support the growth of those organizations. So one of our key pathways is around cultivating entrepreneurial ecosystems. and supporting the development of enabling environments. What does enabling environments mean? The first and foremost is, yes, we've talked about having favorable policies that support the development and growth of businesses. And they include things like, the tax system is very important, but also they include things like, for example, one that everyone knows is the development of economic free zones is a policy that supports the development of entrepreneurs. Or in the United States, we have what we call the AGOA Act, which supports entrepreneurs in countries like Nigeria that want to export to countries in the United States. These are the kind of policies that drive growth and development in our countries. These are the kind of policies you want to see more of that's going to drive the growth of your businesses. Other things that are included in that enabling environment, which we all know, access to finance. I say that quietly because I know that that's the biggest noise in the room that most entrepreneurs will talk about, is how do we get access to money? Biggest challenge, and we know, I'm a Nigerian, even though I was born and bred in the UK, I'm a Nigerian, and I've been coming backwards and forwards home all of my life, and I've been living in West Africa for the last 12 years. And I'm an entrepreneur as well, so I feel the challenges that you're all going through. But one of the things that I would advocate for, and we are doing a lot of work with, is private banking institutions and the cost of borrowing. In most of the global north, businesses will go to their banks to borrow money to grow their businesses. For us in Africa, the interest rate is unbelievable in terms of growing your business. But to be positive, Nigeria is the most successful economy in Africa. Can you imagine what Nigeria would be if we didn't have all the challenges that we have? That's the one thing that drives me every day, that excites me every day about working in this place, is the resilience of entrepreneurs. Because even with the system now, with inflation, I don't even know what the inflation rates are, but they are bad. Unbelievable. When I talk to my colleagues and they're telling me of the challenges they have, how? But the economies are still driving forward. Entrepreneurs are still moving forward. And that, please, can you imagine the tiny changes that we make, whether it's in the tax system or the policies that we have? This gentleman, thank you. You spoke. Oh, amen for this guy. Thank you. Because sometimes we're afraid to be able to say the things we need to say. Dialogue is critical to find those safe spaces where people can speak without fear. And one of the things that we do as a leading voice of the SGB space, we want to take your voice not just to the levels in Nigeria, but global. There is the rest of the world out there that needs to see Nigeria, that needs to hear Nigeria. And this is where the Andy network is essentially beautiful for that. In 2024, I'm committing, and Adenike knows this, I'm committing to working with our members. Fate Institute is a member of Andy, and there are several others. And as a Nigerian, I am committing to Fate Institute and the people in this room that we will take your voices to the global stage. So whether it's through the amazing reports that we've just had produced, I don't know why we weren't even partnering with you to do that. For me, it's a shame. We should have been working with you to do that report. But for the next steps, what can we do to add value to what you've just done and to take the message that you have written about in the double-sided book to the stage, the global stage? There are also lessons that Nigeria can teach others in the global south. For all the things that we say are challenges, we also need to look at the things that we're doing well. Also need to take the things that we can take the learning to other parts of the world. So we want to take your voices. That's what we do. We do convenings globally. We take local to global. And this is where I'm committing to Fate, that we will work closely with you, much more closely with you in 2024, to take the lessons learned. Knowledge is power. To take the lessons that they have found in Nigeria and take that global. And so we can hear the voices of those policymakers, development agencies, all those other organizations that support growth and development, let them hear your story. Let them see the entrepreneurs. Let them see the incredible energy that is in this room. And on that note, I will stop here because I can stand here and talk for hours, but you've done a lot, and congratulations for this amazing event. And I look forward to 10 Policy Dialogue with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, M. Ekong. A round of applause for M. Ekong and for Ande. Very exciting to hear that, making that commitment to our work. So we look forward to the work next year. Now the curtain is gradually coming, the curtain is coming closer. So we're about to close it. But before we do, a key outcome from the conversations today is that we arrive at very clear policy recommendations. We've said a lot about taxation. What exactly are our priorities? To take that, please join me in welcoming to the stage a great friend of the house and a member of the technical committee, Mrs. Teju Abisoye, who is the Vice President, Africa Region Way, United Way Worldwide. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you, Amaka. Thank you very, very much. Okay, so I'm not going to take too much of your time. I personally have to do school runs, so allow me to thank you, Mr. Oyedele, for your time today, to everybody that has contributed to the conversation, for the recommendations, and I do not want to repeat what has been said and what is already being worked on, especially what Mr. Oyedele has said. Mr. Ekong tried to take us away from tax, but I'm back to tax, and Dr. Erumebo, thank you and well done again for the words you shared. So I think something that is definitely important that has come out from today is that all of this recommendations is really going to start with data and having access to the right data. It was clear from Mr. Oyedele's conversation that when we have data, we know how to classify citizens and the kind of taxes they will be paying. Second, that came out, harmonization of taxes is clear. That has to happen. And I'm so impressed by what Mr. Oyedele shared with us that somebody said it's renewed hope. It is renewed hope because the harmonization we're talking about is not just now at state level, which was when I was at LSCTF, we were trying to force them, Ms. Coker, Dr. Coker, to harmonize at state level. But it looks like we're even looking at it from the federal level and going to see a lot of harmonization on taxes. Third, I want to talk about transparency and accountability, extremely important. How are we going to make sure there will be access to information at all times for any citizen to know when to pay, who to pay, and what to pay? How well are we going to simplify tax information for everybody? One thing that came out from the second panel today was about citizens taking responsibility. How many people know about Report.gov? Yes, a few people. There's actually an app by Business Made Easy where you can report tax, government agencies, any government parastatal that is not doing what they're supposed to do. Please have no fear. If you want change, you're going to have to report some people, and the people are going to have to lose their jobs. Because the more we purge the people that are not letting the work being done become glaring, we need to get rid of them. I was excited when NLC sacked the people that were collecting cash for the train rides. But we need we need to be brutal about it because we want the change that we want to see that change that we really need. So we must take responsibility, reporting wrongdoing, and then requesting for information. Extremely important. From the first to the second, I heard a lot around collaboration. Join associations. Join associations. You know, when the Ogun State, when she was talking to us about how they created the cooperative, somebody will hold the key, somebody will hold the box. It's so critical because it helps with trust, helps with transparency, and we can, in associations, we really can put pressure on government. we really can. And we need to know as citizens the advantage of being able to do that. So, Amaka, just to help your matter. So, with regards to education, Faith School is available. And Dr. Folashade Koka did some sessions for us at LSCTF that I can never forget. Succinct, very deliberate about providing information, not just to SMEs, but even to promoters about their own pay and payee. We need to educate ourselves. And I think it's time you guys include that as one of your deliverables, as in there should be sessions, like workshops, whatever we want to call it, on tax education, because we have to begin to educate people more deliberately about understanding what is required of them. On that note, these are the ones I'm going to talk about. We would listen and we'll record the others, but thank you so much for listening and being a part of today.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Abisoye. Thank you very much. Very quickly, I will now invite the President, Association of Small Business Owners of Nigeria, Dr. Femi Egbeshola, for the appreciation, and then we can call it a day. For this session, yes, very important.
Not a day yet, but a break. It's been one wonderful session, you will agree with me. Is that not so? We have been packed with a loads of information. And I'm sure it's a lot of value for time. I would like to start by thanking very greatly the founder of Faith Foundation and also Faith Foundation itself. Can we all rise and put our hands together for Faith Foundation to have given us this opportunity, this platform, because this is really for us. Is that not so? They are just the drivers. We are the owners of this vehicle. The value is for us. Let's put our hands together, please, and let's do it well. Thank you so much. You may be seated. Mr. Taiwo Oyedele, we just cannot thank you enough. We just cannot thank you enough. I wish I would not mention your name again, but just cannot help it. Leaving your schedule, coming down to us to attend to our needs, even with a very tight schedule, shows the priority you give to MSMEs. We thank you so very much. And we can see here that you have a heart that everybody loves. So my advice for you, guard your heart. The speakers here today has been awesome. We've got a lot of valuable contributions from the speakers, starting from Engineer Jennifer Dige, Mrs. Toyin Bashar, Dr. Folashade Koka, Dr. Adebayo Adams, Mrs. Sheyi Bella, the moderator. Thank you so much for that wonderful panel. It's like the panel should not end, but it just has to end. We also want to thank Mr. Wilson. Remember, that's a wonderful one. I was picking up each words of your discussion because it speaks to our need, it addresses our needs, and I'm sure that Mr. Taiwo Idili has taken notes of all of that and will do justice to it. Well, Miss Ekong and Mrs. Teju Abisoye, thank you so very much for your part. We are so happy to have you here. The panel is so balanced, you can see. I think the only thing missing is that sector, the sector of tax defaulters or tax evaders. And I'm sure you know why they are not here. Mr. Fola Adeola said it. He said they will not come to a program like this. And we also want to thank our person, our woman in the house, Mrs. Adenike and Mrs. Amaka Nwokolo. Please, let's put our hands together for the two of them. They've been very wonderful. They have worked tirelessly day and night for months for us to have what we have had today. And it's a lot of work. I was close to them during the process, so I can tell you they have done a lot of work. So putting your hands together again and again for them wouldn't be too much. We also have here in our midst different business membership organizations. We have NASI, National Association of Small-Scale Industrialists, represented by Mr. Kuti. Please, can you stand up for recognition? With his team. His team are also here. We have NASME, represented by Dr. Adebayo. You've seen him here. And he also came with his team. We have the president and members of the Guild of Water Purifiers and Researchers of Nigeria, Mr. Bassi. Can you please stand up for recognition? With his team too. I also represent Association of Small Business Owners of Nigeria, known as HASBON. We also have quite a host of other associations here present. We say thank you so much for making it a day. Thank you for responding to our invitation. And thank you for being part of the program. Your contributions, your participation is noteworthy. We also have a big fish in the house, ICANN. ICANN is here. Can you please stand up for recognition? Where is ICANN representative? Oh, yes. Okay. Well, even in absence, let's still thank them for coming. Today, tax has been one side demystified, the other side battered. I'm sure if tax has legs, it will run so far away from here. So I'm so happy to be here, to be part of this program. And I'm sure we have got a lot of learnings, a lot of insights, a lot of recommendations. I'm sure all of our time, our energy here today would not be a waste. It's going to be implemented. It will get to the right quarters. And we have the right vehicle here with us that will help us out. Thank you once again. The caterer too, they did a wonderful job. Didn't you enjoy the meal? And I'm sure you're already prepared for another one. Thank you, our caterers, our food managers. It's been perfect. One thing I've taken away from here today is that our discussion here is going to inspire a lot of positive changes and innovation. And by the time we come back next year, we are going to be celebrating, like someone said, our new goals, new milestones that we have been able to achieve through some of the discussions we have had here and the contributions we've been able to make over the time through the reform committee. And the second thing is pay your what? Tax. Pay your tax. If you want government to be responsible to us, we should also be responsible to what? To government. So I'm sure those of us, I'm not part of those of us anyway, but let me put it that way. Those of us who are not yet paying taxes, one lesson you must take away from here is that from now onward, let us begin to pay our tax. It is when we pay our tax, we will have the right to challenge government. We will have the ability to request for what we need from government. If we don't do our side of the game, it will be difficult for us to expect government to also do their side of the game. On that note, I say a very big thank you. I also want to finally commend and appreciate our virtual attendees who are part of this program. We appreciate you. And part of these attendees today are representatives of business owners from Togo. Their name is US Afrique. They are part of the online members listening today. And this has been facilitated by Mrs. Teju Ashaye. We also have on the online platform the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry. They are all the way from Ghana listening to the program. We say big thank you to you. And we hope that next year you will also be part of it. Thank you so very much, everyone.
A round of applause for our very own Dr. Femi Egbeshola. Thank you very much. And a big thank you to everyone seated in the room, to everyone who has joined us. Thank you so much. This program, and special thanks, because everything we have done today would not be possible without our technical planning committee. We have, the committee is made up of Mrs. Sheyi Bella, Mrs. Tejo Abisoye, Mrs. Toyin Bashir, Mr. Gospel Obele, Mr. Wilson Arumebor, Dr. Femi Egbeshola, who you just listened to. They worked tirelessly with us to ensure that this program is put together and is successful, and we can all be here to have this conversation today. Many thanks to our technical planning committee. Ladies and gentlemen, this session has ended. We have refreshments by the foyer, so please follow the directions of the ushers to go grab something to eat. Coming up next is the youth dialogue session. So this is the time to change into your sneakers, your jeans, come be a youth at heart, or a youth indeed. Thank you very much. Have a good rest of the day. Thank you.